Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if every single character from Naruto was born in Remnant. Truth and justice, two words that are forever intertwined after they were first brought together. Beacon Academy, a place where the future hunters and huntresses are trained to fight the evil Grimm. However, this isn't your average high school, and these aren't your average students. Look out Beacon, Naruto Uzumaki's coming for ya. Welcome aboard. Chapter 1, Beacon. Longest flight ever. A young man groaned as he knocked his head against the metal interior of the airship he rode in. He crossed his arms over his chest and hung his head when he heard no reply. I never should have stopped for that bowl, figures those two jerks would run off without me. The teen looked up as a blond boy that wore an interesting armor jacket similar to his own, without the awesome hood and with a different symbol, he noted, rushed past him to the back of the airship with his hands over his mouth. The teen arched his own golden brow while his blue eyes twinkled in amusement. Then again, maybe I'm just not looking on the bright side of things, he said with a snicker. He slid down and crossed his legs in front of him, where they stuck out into the aisle, and interlaced his hands behind his head while he looked up at the ceiling. Still though, I hope those two aren't trying to kill each other. After all, I need one for pranks, and the other for homework. Someone near him let out a small laugh and he looked over at the amused redhead with bronze and red armor that revealed her prime physique. He grinned at her and gave her a friendly wave. The girl seemed to freeze for a moment before she shyly waved back. Before he could invite her over or go over to make a new friend, a woman appeared as a hologram behind him. She had light blonde hair pulled back in a bun, a white blouse and dark skirt. From her shoulders fell a cape that was purple and had almost devil-like tails coming off of it. Her green eyes were behind rectangular glasses that rested on her nose. Overall, he gave her a 7 out of 10 on the scaling system. He wasn't into the librarian look. Hello and welcome to Beacon. The young man stood and interlocked his hands behind his head as he barely restrained himself from jumping with joy. Those words meant this stupid flight was almost over. My name is Glinda Goodwitch. You are among the privileged few who have received the honor of attending this prestigious academy. Our world is experiencing an incredible time of peace. If only that were true. The teen whispered sadly while his left hand reached up to grab hold of the item that hung from his neck. He tuned out the rest of Goodwitch's speech as he looked over his prized possession. The necklace was not important, being a simple cord of orange wire, but the gold rings that hung from it were. They were the wedding bands that belonged to his parents, may they rest peacefully with Aum. He was not old enough to remember their faces when they died, but he was told that they were good people who lived to protect, and thus he lived for the same reason. The boy looked up as the hologram flickered away and tightened his grip on the rings. He looked over his reflection and grinned widely at it, the whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks spread wide by his smile. His untamable mess of sunny blonde hair was kept under a black hood that protruded from an orange and black jacket that was partially unzipped to reveal a mesh-like undershirt. The jacket had small bits of dark armor attached over the shoulders, chest and back, with a red and black spiral painted on the shoulders and back. His trusty Stormbreaker gauntlets were fitted around his arms and hands. From the waist down he wore orange pants that had hidden padding sewn into it. Finally, protecting his feet were his old academy's signature combat sandals, a variant of hunter boots that allowed for more kinesthetic impact. The blond teen let his rings fall back and rest against his chest before he zipped his jacket up and looked over the view below him. Well, Beacon, I hope you're ready for Naruto Uzumaki. His grin widened and his eyes flashed mischievously. Then again, I kind of hope you're not. He looked up as the blonde from before ran from his corner back towards the front. As the boy passed two girls, they started to freak out about some puke on one of their shoes. Naruto could only laugh. Oh yeah. This is going to be awesome. My idiot senses are tingling. A young man mused from where he leaned against a light pole on the main walkway into Beacon. Wild burnt orange hair covered his head and bangs fell down over solid black sunglasses. He wore a dark red shirt and black pants, with combat sandals that were required at Khan Academy. Around his waist was an orange belt of fur that twitched occasionally. Rested against his left shoulder under his crossed arms was a black staff that had a ring at the top that had 6 small knives dangling from it. He looked over at the airship that came into the dock and smirked. I think he finally arrived. Good for nothing, lazy hairless ape. Look who's talking, Foxboy, another youth said lowly from where he was perched on the light pole, uncaring as the other growled at him for the name. The new speaker had an angular face and raven black hair. He wore a navy blue high-collared and long-sleeved mantle that parted just below his waist to reveal similarly dark pants and sandals that his companion wore. The youth sat up and revealed a red and white fan on his back, perched above his waist, around which was a belt where a solid black sword was clipped. He gripped the light pole's neck with gloved hands and swung down to land beside the red-clad teen and looked at the sunglasses with black eyes. Is something wrong? He asked the red-wearing teenager. The ginger-haired youth let out a growl. Don't call me Foxboy, Airless. The onyx-eyed youth's eyes flashed. Ah, that's right. You're not a boy anymore. I forgot, you finally went through your, what was it again, heat? I'm so tempted to drain you dry right now. Oh, come on, guys. Can't you wait at least a day before you try to rip each other apart? The two looked away from one another as Naruto approached them with his duffel slung over his shoulder. Naruto grinned at his classmates and fellow Khan graduates. I mean, I need to have more than one alias after I prank that good witch chick. She's just asking for it, dressing up like a librarian and all. I'd bet Airless wants to tap it. What with his fetish and all. The red-clad teen mused. The two amused boys looked at their raven-haired companion while he scowled at them and his cheeks tinted. I do not have a fetish. He hissed. Sure, you don't, Sasuke. Naruto leaned over to the red-clad teen and not too quietly whispered, he's still in denial. Screw you, Uzumaki. Sasuke snapped. I'd quiet down if I were you, Sasuke. Isn't that how that rumor got started? The red-clad teen asked with a vulpine-like grin on his face. Both Sasuke and Naruto shuddered at the memory and then glared at the one who reminded them of it. If I remember correctly, that was because you started it, Kurama. Naruto grumbled. Kurama, as he was named, let his grin widen. I ain't denying it, unlike Mr. Librarian Fetish. Go chase a rabbit, Otsutsuki. Sasuke scowled at Kurama. Kurama's grin never wavered as his red aura began to leak out and he adjusted his grip on his staff. Why don't you make me, Uchiha? Sasuke's black aura started to leak out as well and he grabbed onto the handle of his sword and began to draw it. I'd be glad to dash. They were stopped from fighting by an explosion that occurred somewhere down the walkway. Ooh, boom boom. So big and beautiful, I wonder if someone got hurt. But that cloud, let's go investigate. The cheerful Naruto declared as he rushed off towards the source. Sasuke and Kurama exchanged a look before they chased after their excitable friend. It was never a dull day when one was a friend with Naruto Uzumaki. Ah, another dust accident? No residue or destruction. So, lame. Naruto pouted in disappointment as he came across the source of the explosion. He continued to mope while the girl dressed in white yelled at the girl in the red cape. His two friends palmed their faces as they came across his discovery. Figures that's what you'd be disappointed about, Sasuke said with a sigh. Sigh. He looked over at Kurama when a growl left the teen's throat. What's your problem, Foxboy? Aside from that annoying nickname? Horror. Kurama glared from behind his sunglasses at the white-themed girl. He bared his teeth, revealing a sharper-than-average fang in place of a human's canine, and growled again. She's a schnee. Bless you, Naruto said as he overcame his initial disappointment. Sasuke smacked him upside the head. No, you idiot. The Schnee family is the family most well known for dust mining and the faunus bias. It's damn near slavery. Kurama snapped at the darkly themed teen. They get wages that equal the dangers. The fact it's less than human workers, who do not face such dangers but perform more mundane tasks in the office, is what's so controversial about it. Sasuke returned coolly as he rolled his eyes. That's what the media wants you to think. Kurama snarled. He scoffed and looked away before the other boy could retort. Stupid, arrogant asshole. Pot, meat kettle, have you realized something? You're both black. Naruto drawled as he stared at the two. He sighed and rubbed the back of his head. Man, what am I going to do with you guys? Could you excuse me? A calm voice asked. Naruto turned and looked down at the girl with hair as dark as his friend's. She was dressed in black clothes with a revealed midriff and had a large bow on her head. Naruto cracked a grin and looked at Sasuke. Hey, I found your dream girl. She's practically a female you. Funny, idiot. Maybe you should follow our example and get out of her way, Sasuke said as he stepped to the side. Naruto chuckled sheepishly and did as he was asked. Yeah, sorry Ms. Dash? The girl walked away without much of another word. She did stiffen slightly as she walked by Kurama, who merely arched a brow in return. Wow, rude much? Naruto asked with a small frown. Then again, he hadn't helped matters with his comment. She's a faunus. Kurama's observation was softly spoken. He crossed his arms and let his weapon rest against his shoulder. Probably irked from being near Schnee. The idiot's comment probably didn't help. For once, we agree. Naruto slumped to the ground and began to draw circles on the sidewalk. My friends are so mean to me. I also agree with the idiot's observation. Kurama added with a grin. That was definitely the female, faunus version of you, Uchiha. While Sasuke dryly glared at him, Naruto perked up and threw an arm around Kurama's shoulders. I knew my right-hand man wouldn't leave me hanging. Of course not. I want to see you drown in your precious noodles. Kurama smirked as Naruto squawked. Blasphemy. Sasuke shook his head and looked up at the largest hall that was in front of them. Come on, I think there's supposed to be a speech or something. We hurry before we miss it. And how do you know that? Naruto asked his friend. Sasuke smirked back at him before he started to walk away with a smirking Kurama behind him. Because, idiot, this is still a school. Ah, crap, I hate it when he's right. Naruto sulked for a moment. He followed his two friends. Oi! Oi! Wait up, you jerks! A young man walked around the campus of Beacon, smiling gently as he did. He was dressed oddly, even for most hunters, wearing a russet pinstripe outfit underneath a green haori with white trimmings. Around his waist was a brown sash that had a simple, if bulky, metal bar clipped to the back of it. Only wooden sandals with straps the same color of his haori protected his feet. His bangs were long enough to reach the top of his torso, the hair a silky black, though most of it was pulled back into a white bun holder. When one added his androgynous features, it was hard to tell if he were a boy, which he was. He despised it so, but it was a fact of life and he had come to accept it. That he accepted it didn't mean he'd have to like it, though. With a soft complacent sigh, the feminine boy let his hands rest behind his back and continued his stroll towards the auditorium for the inevitable opening speech. As he rounded a bend, he was nearly bowled over by a young couple, both of which looked to be in a panic. The saving grace? The girl had spotted him and stopped both herself and her companion before they ran smack into him. Ah, sorry. The girl, a short thing she was for a 17-year-old, apologized to him. He took a moment to quickly assess her build. What? He was a healthy teenage male. He could look if he so wished. She was a petite girl, dressed in black clothes that were accented by red to match the red cape she wore. Her weapon was in the compacted form, much like his own, and hung from her waist. Her skin, again like his, was a pale white and her eyes were an interesting silver. Her hair was short, dark and, like her clothes, had red highlights. "It's no problem," he answered after he finished his quick moment of appreciating her modest bust, again, healthy teenage male. The androgynous male looked at her companion when he asked his next question. "Why are you two in such a hurry?" The blonde teen, built far differently from himself, was an inch or so taller than he was with broad shoulders and a good physique. His armored clothes looked rather hastily thrown together, a mess of colors that would do well to conceal him, but it was the weapon that drew his attention. The sword and sheath were infamous and easily recognizable. They belonged to an arc. "Interesting. We're trying to figure out where the auditorium is," the boy said. He sounded rather young. A hand was thrust from the blonde and a small grin was on his face. "John Arc, nice to meet you. And I'm Ruby Rose." The cute girl in red added her own hand. He took the Arc's hand with a smile and after he shook it, took Ruby's in a gentler, but firm shake. "The pleasure is mine. I am Haku Yuki. So, you wouldn't happen to know if we're supposed to be anywhere, do you?" John asked awkwardly. Haku supposed the boy was trying to determine whether he was a male or female. Haku had to admit, this was the one boon that came with being androgynous. Well, that and all the female admirers. Girls were strange, but he wasn't complaining. Taking pity on the two, Haku smiled gently. "Yes. There's bound to be an opening ceremony or speech of some sort in the auditorium. I was just about to head over that way, would you like to join me?" "Please." "Yes." Haku smiled and let his hands fall behind his back. "Wonderful. I always enjoy making new friends. This way. I smell maybe one or two other faunas here aside from the femme Sasuke," Kurama said lowly from his place on the wall in the back of the auditorium. He ignored the glare from his dark-haired companion and sighed softly. So much for being a faunus-friendly school. Don't worry about it, buddy. You still got me and Sasuke, and as long as we stick together, nothing can stop us." Naruto grinned as he let his hands interlock behind his head. Sasuke dropped his glare and stared at the blonde member of their trio dryly. "What did you do?" Naruto looked hurt at the question and placed his hands over his chest. "Sasuke, my friend, how could you be so cruel? To suggest that I would step out of line and perform some sort of delinquent act of mischief. I'm hurt." Sasuke merely stared at him for another minute before he looked at Kurama. "So, what did he do?" Oi! Oi! Kurama ignored Naruto's outrage and let a small grin cross his face. "Well, I promised I wouldn't tell. I didn't even do anything yet." Naruto protested. Sasuke, like Kurama, ignored the blonde. "What should I prepare for? The rubber chicken incident or something along the lines of the eraser scheme? You guys aren't even listening to me, are you? Meh, more like the lunchroom war of Class E. That bad, huh?" Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and pouted. "You guys are literally the worst friends imaginable. Why don't you go try to make better friends then?" Sasuke asked. "Well, maybe I will." Naruto shot back. Kurama snorted. "You're way too stupid to make new friends." Naruto opened his mouth to retort, but went quiet as the lights dimmed and a gentle clearing of the throat came through the microphone. The three turned to the stage to see Glinda Goodwitch and a gray-haired man that was easily 3 or so inches taller than her. He was dressed sharply, with a green scarf around his neck and had a cane in his left hand as he addressed the students. "I'd like to make this brief." Naruto slouched against the wall with a sigh. And by that he means he's going to prattle on and on about his school's prosperity, dignity, and the rules. "I dunno, he seems to be a bit distracted," Sasuke said as he listened to the apparent headmaster speak. What he needs to do is back away from the microphone. Kurama muttered as he dug in his right ear with his pinky. The feedback is killing me. And he's done. What? Seriously? Naruto snapped his eyes open and gaped as he saw the man walk away while Goodwitch stepped forward. Damn, why couldn't our school assemblies be that quick? Gather in the ballroom tonight, tomorrow your initiation begins. Initiation? What is this, a cult? Kurama asked lowly with a hint of amusement. Sasuke shook his head and stepped away from the wall towards the auditorium doors. I wouldn't be surprised. Come on. Let's go find the ballroom so we can claim a place to sleep. Right behind you, Naruto said as he followed his two friends. He turned and caught sight of the same girl from his airship. She noticed him and gave a quick wave that he reciprocated with his usual grin plastered on his face. Naruto turned back to his friends as the sea of people obscured her from his view. Shame, too, it was a nice view. Segregated sides? Where's the fun in that? Naruto asked with a frown as he walked over to the far side of the ballroom with his pack and sleeping bag. He dropped his stuff on the ground and began to prepare for bed, which, for him was rather easy. Remove all clothes, save for the unmentionables, and throw on a pair of shorts. With no shame at all, Naruto stripped. It was hard to feel shame when one was raised mostly by themselves or was influenced by certain unique classes offered at Khan Academy. After all, hunters and huntresses had to be able to adapt to any situation at any time. It didn't hurt that Naruto noticed a few girls had paused to admire his build. That was just a coincidental bonus. Whoa, Uzumaki. Am I gonna have to get some lean out for that show? Kurama asked with a smirk as he walked up to the blonde. He'd changed from his clothes into red pajama pants and a white tank top. His sunglasses had been replaced with a black sleep mask that had a red fox on the front. The fuzzy belt was still wrapped around his waist. Naruto smirked back at his friend and played with the hem of his running shorts. Well, I'm not opposed to making a bit on the side. We should have never let you go to that club with the toad sage. Sasuke grunted as he dropped his stuff on the blonde's other side. He had changed from his armor into a modest yukata with red and white fans decorating the material. A plastic green card smacked him in the face and Sasuke glared at the snickering Kurama. Dude! Naruto frowned in mock annoyance. He gestured to his well-developed torso. I'm the eye candy here, give me some of that. Ah, but he's the one they all want to strip. Kurama countered as he pointed at the girls who had glued their eyes to Sasuke. The raven-haired boy grunted in annoyance and tossed the lean hard at Naruto, who yelped as the currency smacked against his right pectoral. Sasuke turned and began to walk away, a small bag in his hands. If you peons will excuse me, I need to go prepare for bed. Of course, oh glorious one. The two chimed back boisterously and obnoxiously. A sole finger was raised back at them without any other to accompany it and the two troublemakers burst into laughter. What's so funny? The voice made the two look up, and promptly burst into more laughter. Help me. Naruto fell to his knees while he held his gut and laughed at the boy who had been emptying his stomach onto the airship floor. He was dressed in a set of light blue footy pajamas. Wow, man, and I thought you looked stupid when you went to bed back in the day. Kurama agreed as he overcame his laughter. He faced the confused blonde with a wide grin on his face. What are you wearing? Pajamas, duh. The response made Naruto laugh harder. Kurama, however, shook his head and grabbed his bag. No, you're not. Come on, man, even I'm not cruel enough to let you stay in those. The boy frowned. What's wrong with my pajamas? How can you even see me? Tricks of the trade, PJ. Kurama grabbed the blonde's shoulder despite the protest and dragged him towards the bathroom. Back in a bit, Uzumaki. Don't do anything stupid. Naruto couldn't retort because he was still in the midst of dying from laughter. Ex- Excuse me. Sasuke stopped as he walked away from the bathroom back towards his chosen bed. His brain shorted out as his eyes fell on possibly the most beautiful girl smiled at him. She was dressed in a sleeveless pink yukata that covered her modesty with a black choker around her neck. The girl's smile was gentle, much like her features, and she nodded her head slightly. Sorry, but I was just on my way to bed when someone handed me this bag. I believe it was yours, as well. She trailed off as her eyes went to the fan on his bag and then the fans that decorated Sasuke's yukata. Damn it, Sasuke, do something. Say something. Anything. Sasuke mentally reprimanded himself. If he had full control over his body, he would have promptly palmed his face when all that came out of his mouth was a smart and witty Sasuke, you're a damn failure. She let out a soft laugh that sounded like tinkling bells before she set the bag in his hand and bowed slightly to him. Good luck tomorrow and have pleasant dreams tonight. Sasuke could only stare as she walked away, unable to trust himself to say anything other than something stupid despite the fact he so dearly wished to know her name. He was stuck like that for some time, silently berating himself for acting like Naruto, making a fool out of himself in front of probably the most beautiful woman he'd ever laid eyes on. Good night. The sudden jarring from his stupor nearly gave Sasuke a heart attack. The cause of said near heart attack was a girl that only came up to his chin in height. Unlike the goddess he'd just seen, this girl leaned more towards the cute side. Her hair was orange, like a certain annoyance he knew. Elsewhere, Kurama sneezed, and she wore a pink pair of shorts with clouds and lightning on them along with a gray shirt that had the word boop in pink across her chest. It was rather distractive really. Yeah, Knight, I'm sorry, why are you standing on my feet? Sasuke asked dryly. The girl beamed a grin at him. So, I can do this. She poked him on the nose, as she was prepared to do. Boop. Right, well, it was a pleasure meeting you dash. Nora Valkyrie. Nora, but I really should get going and dash. Hey Ren. Come here and check out this guy I found. Think he makes good pancakes? Sasuke started at the strange, and very loud, question that was directed at the young man that approached him. He had hair similar to Sasuke's own, but had a lone strand that was a hot pink. He seemed to give Sasuke an apologetic look before he directed his gaze to the eccentric Nora. Nora, come on, it's time for bed. Ah, but I was just getting to know Duck Butt. Sasuke's eye twitched. No. He would not let that name start again. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. Nora looked at him with wide eyes before she stepped back from him and put a finger on her lips as she looked him over. Fancy, you must have access to the best maple syrup. Sasuke groaned as the girl began to prattle on about syrup of all things, and she seemed to cut him off whenever he tried to walk away. What fresh hell has he doomed himself to? Must resist stupidity impulse. Naruto mumbled to himself as he played with a paddle ball he'd brought for such an occasion where he'd be left to his lonesome with the strict orders of not doing anything stupid from Kurama. His gaze went over to his bag, where a rubber chicken's leg was visible from the zipper. Sweat poured down the right side of his face as he looked back at the paddle ball that was now a blur. Not resisting well. He needed to prank something. Someone. Anyone. He needed to make someone laugh even at the cost of his own social standing. Oh, not you again. Two voices called out in annoyance from the girl's side. Naruto stopped his paddle ball and beamed. Thank you, you great and powerful bastard you. He vacated his seat and quickly made his way over toward the source of the noise. What's your problem with my sister? She's only trying to be nice. She's a hazard to my health. Naruto moved silently through the dimmed lighting to stand behind the loud girl dressed in white. He pulled out his trusty never-fail orange duct tape and prepared a strip that was long enough to go over a person's face twice. Before the girl in white knew what happened, Naruto had taped her mouth shut. What? A prank didn't have to be elegantly planned out all the time. It just had to be a surprise. The girl, sneeze or something along those lines, let out a muffled shriek while the other three stared at the scene for a moment. The buxom blonde, who Naruto did look over twice because hormones, and the younger-looking girl both burst into laughter while the femme Sasuke let out an aggravated sigh. Well, I think we can all learn something from this. Naruto grinned as the buxom girl let out a snort of agreement. He put a hand on the sneeze's shoulder and gave her a grin. Don't worry, it'll wear off in about an hour or so and it won't leave a rash, I think. The girl's eyes went wide and she dashed off towards the bathroom. Naruto turned back to the amused duo and the slightly amused femme Sasuke. He gave them a small grin and whispered to them conspiratorially. It won't leave a rash, but there might be a permanent lipstick for a few days. That's so evil, I love it. The buxom blonde grinned at him. I like you, Whisker Boy. Name's Young Xiaolong, this is my little sister Ruby. Ruby Rose. The younger girl, Ruby, corrected. She gestured to the disguised faunus that seemed to be annoyed with them. And that's Dash. Femme Sasuke. We've met. Naruto grinned at the girl while she stared at him blankly before she shook her head. Blake Belladonna. I'm still gonna call you Femme Sasuke. Naruto grinned as her cat-like yellow eyes narrowed. To annoy the stoic was one of his many reasons for living. He held his hands up defensively. Kidding. Geez, no need to be so mean, Belle. Blake. Same difference. Naruto shrugged and intertwined his hands behind his head, completely forgetting that he was still shirtless. He was reminded of the fact when Ruby's face gained some color and Yang gave him an approving once-over. His grin still on his face, Naruto dropped his arms and slipped between the two sisters. So, you wanna end this day with a yawn? Because I know I do. Yang smirked back at him and playfully wrapped her arms around the back of his neck. Elsewhere, Kurama, who had just finished helping his new acquaintance John Arc, froze and paled. Oh no. I had always hoped that the possibility was too high. Likewise, Sasuke, who'd somehow managed to get Nora to shut up about pancakes for 5 seconds so her friend could properly introduce himself, did the same. Dear help us, my worst fear has been realized. Unknown to the two, they spoke their next words at the same time, in the same amount of horror. There's 2 of him. I'm up to breaking a few rules if you are, Whiskers. First you gotta tell me, do the carpets match the drapes? Yang's breathy question made Naruto's grin widen. Depends, do yours? Yang's grin widened as she leaned in and not so softly whispered, let's find out. Together. EW. Yang. Gross. Ruby couldn't take it anymore after she'd turned into a prime example of a tomato. A glance at Blake showed that she fared no better with her faint blush across her nose. Both Naruto and Yang broke into wide grins and then laughed loudly as they pulled away from one another. Yang smirked at her younger sister once she'd recovered from her laughter. What's wrong, Ruby? Jealous? Yang's smile widened even more as Ruby's face turned a shade darker. Oh man, their faces, too good. Naruto snickered out. He held his hand out towards Yang. That was awesome. You're a natural prankster, Yang. Sorry I never introduced myself earlier, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Chapter 2, Partners. Oh yeah, you stir those noodles, you beautiful woman, that lives in my house. Naruto mumbled between snores. He had a dopey grin on his face while he was sprawled out across his sleeping bag. He was a chaotic sleeper. Kurama, dressed in his regular attire and his eyes hidden once more by his dark wraparound sunglasses, stared down at the unconscious blonde with an amused smile on his face. He adjusted his hold on his staff and looked at his annoyed acquaintance. So, do you want the honors or will I get to wake him up today? He asked. Sasuke's eye twitched and he lifted his right hand. Naruto had kicked him at least 5 different times last night. I'm waking him up. I suggest you vacate the area. Ah, this is going to be biblical, isn't it? Sasuke said nothing and held his hand out towards the blissfully snoozing blonde. There was a soft crackling as Sasuke's hand became encased in black static. Kurama wisely took a few steps back until he was a good 10 meters away. He ignored some of the odd looks sent his way by other students. Be merciful and let Naruto's luck hold strong. There was a loud boom of thunder followed by a sharp yell from the once sleeping blonde. A beat passed and Kurama looked over at his two friends with a light smile while the rest in the room stared in horrified shock. They must not have expected the giant explosion. Obviously, they hadn't gone to school with Naruto Uzumaki. Those poor, pitiful fools don't know what awaits them. Kurama chuckled and began to walk back to his friends when he saw Naruto hop up from his place on the ground. His only damage was a bit of singed hair and his skin smoked lightly. Oi! I was having a nice dream, jackass. Naruto raged loudly as he glared at his friend. What did you have to go and ruin it for? Our initiation is today. We have to be ready. You don't get to sleep in if we don't. Sasuke was stoic as ever at first, but then there was a small smirk on his face. Plus, retribution. Naruto huffed and crossed his arms over his chest while he pouted. I guess I can't be too mad, then. I threw the first punch, after all. You kicked me 5 times. Sasuke drawled with his annoyance plain to see. Oh. We're square then. Naruto nodded before he sent a wave and smile to his ginger-haired friend. Morning, Kurama. Glad to see your idiocy factor saved your ass again. Kurama returned with a smirk. Naruto hung his head and his shoulders slumped. My friends are so cruel. Why do I always have locker numbers that add up to 9? Naruto asked as he grabbed his gauntlets and necklace from his assigned locker. I mean, in elementary it was 9 exactly, then in Con I had locker 234, and now I have locker 603. Must be your lucky number, Kurama said as he adjusted one of the attached blades on his staff. So, you hear anything while you were inhaling your breakfast or were you on ramen mode? First of all, I'm always on ramen mode. Naruto corrected sternly as he pulled his bulky left gauntlet on and flipped open the ammo cache to put load it. Secondly, I think there's going to be teams for something. Teams, huh? Any word on how they'll get picked? Kurama asked. Naruto clapped his hand onto the ammunition slot to lock the dust bullets in place before he grinned at his friend. Nope. Kurama sighed. He looked up as another idiotic blonde boy walked past with his face buried in a sheet of paper. Morning, PJ, where are you going? Huh? Oh, hey Kurama. John greeted with a smile. He chuckled sheepishly and gestured to his paper. Well, I don't remember having to count so high to find my locker. But according to this sheet, I was assigned locker 636. The top brass usually don't make mistakes when it comes to lockers, cute boy. Naruto chimed in from where he sat loading his right gauntlet with ammo. He looked up and grinned at his fellow blonde while John grimaced. Not you, too. He bemoaned. Puke boy? Kurama asked as his grin widened. Do I really want to know? No. Probably. Naruto shrugged. He shut the lid on his right gauntlet and pumped both fists in. A loud click followed and a grin spread across Naruto's face as he slammed his fists together. Oh yeah. The Stormbreakers are ready to bust some Grimm heads wide open. I don't think they'll have us facing Grimm at the get-go, right? John asked as he looked at Kurama for reassurance. He paled when he noticed the bloodthirsty grin that spread across the sunglasses-wearing teen's face. Rikudo is ready to deliver peace to their soulless hearts, Kurama said with a cackle. He twirled his staff and slammed it on the ground, which caused the blades attached to the ring to jingle. Do you mind keeping your testosterone levels in you? The three boys turned to face the outraged white-clad Shin'eris while she glared daggers at Naruto. Naruto frowned and pointed at her. How'd you get the tape off without leaving a mark? As if I'd tell you. You could have killed me with that stunt. The girl snapped. John stepped between the two before Naruto could argue that none of his pranks were life-threatening. Socially devastating, sure, but never life-threatening. Easy, there's Snow Angel. My friend here didn't mean any harm, John said confidently. Embarrassment was the goal, actually. Naruto chimed in. Dude, you're not helping. John hissed. Why would you go out of your way to embarrass someone? A new girl asked. Naruto blinked and grinned at her. Hey, it's the hot redhead from the airship. You look even better up close. The red-headed girl flushed lightly and rubbed her arm. Thank you? Don't thank him, he's the enemy. The white-clad heiress snapped quickly with her glare still locked on the whiskered blonde. And you, stop flirting with my teammate. Teams haven't been decided yet, Shni, Kurama said pointedly. His grip on his weapon, Rikudo, was so tight that his knuckles had become the same shade as the girl's hair. It doesn't hurt to make new friends, the heiress returned. She crossed her arms over her chest and glared at Kurama. A quick once-over and her attention landed on a certain fuzzy accessory. Her eyes narrowed. Oh, now it makes sense why you're so quick to jump to his defense, Faunus. Kurama let out a low growl as the fuzzy belt unwrapped itself from his waist and flicked in the air. You got a problem with Faunus? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that the Shi family only sees Faunus as slaves. That's a dirty lie, but it seems you would only know dirt since you dig around in the ground so much. The Shni returned. Juan looked between the two nervously before he looked at the girl. Hey, come on, Weiss. He didn't mean it. I never say anything unless I mean it, Ark. Kurama cut in. Weiss huffed. It seems someone's mother never told him to not say anything at all if he didn't have anything nice to say. Kurama snarled. You want to take shots at parents, Shni? Two can play at that game. Kurama, that's enough. Naruto cut in as he stood up from his seat on the bench and glared at the fox Faunus. He tightened his hand into a fist when Kurama turned and growled at him. There was a tense and heavy stare down between the two before Kurama scoffed and turned towards the exit. Like she's worth it. Kurama muttered as he stormed off. Naruto waited until he was gone until he sighed and put his gauntlet hand on his head. Great, that'll be fun to deal with. He certainly doesn't show that Faunus are similar to us. Weiss was cut off as Naruto snapped a look at her. His eyes were intense and determined, and it was potent enough to make the heiress pause. Don't act all high and mighty, you were just as bad as he was. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. Look, right now it doesn't matter if you're a Faunus or a human, if you're an Ark or Shni or, Piranikos. Or if you're Piranikos, Naruto said with a grateful nod to the red-headed girl. Now he knew her name, Bonus. We're all students of Beacon now, and we've all got the same goal, to become hunters of Remnant, to protect our home from the Grimm and criminals alike. There was a small silence among the group before a yellow gauntlet hand punched Naruto's shoulder. Naruto looked to his left and grinned when he saw Young smiling back at him. Nice speech there, Whisker Boy. Naruto chuckled sheepishly and scratched the back of his head. You think so? I just made it up on the spot. It was very impressive. Para agreed with a nod. And accurate. We're all equal, despite our aesthetic differences. Ah, you girls really know how to make a guy feel special. Naruto grinned as he let his hands intertwine behind his head. He looked at Pira. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, by the way. I'm John Arc. Juan was quick to throw in. Pira smiled at them and gave a small wave. Hello, John, Naruto. Pleasure to meet you. Believe me, beautiful, the pleasure is mine. John grinned at the redhead. Naruto and Yang snorted. Cheesy. Shut up, who asked you? John pouted at his fellow blondes. He grinned when he spotted a familiar face hiding slightly behind the two. Hey Ruby. Hi, John. Ruby waved timidly as Weiss' eyes narrowed on her. Dash. If you'll excuse me, I need to go prepare my dust somewhere I know I won't blow up, Weiss said coldly before she walked off. Pira looked at the girl with an arched brow. Odd, she seemed nice when we first spoke. Oh, I don't doubt that once you get to know her, she's a Weiss girl. Naruto smiled and held his hand out. Yang snickered and slapped it while Ruby groaned. Nice one. Dear there really are two of you. The group of five turned as Sasuke walked up with a pained and terrified look on his face. He gave Naruto a stern glare. If we are going to continue being friends, for my sanity, you must promise never to procreate with her. Yang leaned an arm on Naruto's shoulder and gave him a grin with half-lidded lilac eyes. Well, what if we let you join in handsome? No. Both Naruto and Sasuke denied her with flat looks on their faces. Yang shrugged and crossed her arms over her impressive bust. Worth a shot. All first-year students are required to meet at Beacon Cliff. A woman's voice asked over the speaker. Repeat. All first-year students are required to meet at Beacon Cliff. Guess it's showtime. Naruto mused as an excited gleam appeared in his eye. He and Sasuke exchanged a quick glance before they gave their respective grins to one another. This was going to be interesting. Naruto looked down at the pad that he stood on and bounced on it a few times. Spring-loaded, this was going to be fun. He turned to his right to look at Kurama, who was still a bit steamed from his interaction with Weiss, and then to his left to look at the black-haired girl wearing the green yukata. She had the aptly named game face on, so Naruto decided to not bother her. Instead, Naruto looked forward as the headmaster, whose name he always forgot, Ollie something, and Goodwitch walked past. They came to a stop at the end of the line, near where PJ and Ruby stood. Mr. O took a sip from his coffee mug and then addressed the group. For years, you have trained to become warriors, he said. Today, your abilities will be evaluated in the Emerald Forest. Bet there's Grimm in there. Naruto thought as a grin spread across his face. Oh, he just couldn't wait to unleash the energy brimming inside him. What to do first? Smash? Blast? So many options. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard the rumor of the assignment of teams. Goodwitch's comment brought Naruto back down to reality from his Grimm slaying fantasy. Well, allow us to put an end to your confusion. Each of you will be given teammates, today. So dramatic, get on with it already. Kurama mumbled as his tail flicked slightly from where it was wrapped around his waist. Naruto heard Sasuke mutter something back, but he couldn't make out the words, so he focused on the teacher. These teammates will be with you for the rest of your time here at Beacon, Mr. O said. So, it is in your best interest to be paired with someone with whom you can work well. Kurama grunted. Crap. There's only 3 of us. One of us is going to get stuck with an outsider. Don't worry about it, Kurama. I'll stay away from the sneeze chick. Naruto returned. Kurama merely nodded his head as the headmaster continued. That being said, the first person you make eye contact with after landing will be your partner for the next 4 years. Oh, crap baskets, it just got real up in here, Naruto said with a blink while his friends tensed. That was some high stakes. It also raised the question of how the teachers would even know. What? Naruto peered down the line towards the source of the terrified voice. He wondered who the poor bastard was. He hoped he or she wouldn't be his partner. His partner needed to be optimistic. After you've partnered up, make your way to the northern end of the forest. Mr. O continued despite the few murmurs that had broken out amongst the students. You will meet opposition along the way. Do not hesitate to destroy everything in your path or you will die. He said it, not me. Y'all are witnesses. Naruto crowed with an excited grin plastered across his face. Kurama and Sasuke groaned while the others gave him amused, annoyed, or indifferent glances. The headmaster seemed to fall into the first category while Goodwitch fell into the second. Say goodbye to the Emerald Forest. Kurama mumbled. It looked nice from up here. Sasuke nodded. Well, it seems one of you is rather confident. The headmaster noted with a small smile before he continued with his instructions. You will be monitored and graded for the duration of your initiation, but our instructors will not intervene. It just keeps getting better and better. Naruto nearly squealed. Kurama leaned over to Sasuke. Not gonna lie, I kind of hope I end up teaming up with you. He'd just keep asking for more aura. And being the good friend you are, you'd supply it, Sasuke said. Kurama nodded. Find an abandoned temple at the end of the path containing several relics. Each pair must choose one, then return to the top of the cliff, Mr. O said over the three friends' voices. You will guard that item, as well as your standing, and we grade you appropriately. Now, are there any questions? Yes. Naruto's hand shot up as he beamed at the gray-haired professor. Is it the 10th? Because I feel like it's my birthday. No, stupid. Kurama answered for the headmaster. It's an early birthday present then. Yeah. Sir? The faint voice, belonging to one John Arc, barely reached Naruto's ears while he anticipated being released into the Emerald Forest. Good. Then take your positions, Mr. O said. He must have been ignoring John. Naruto was as well, but his eyes were focused on the forest as he crouched down like a frog. Gonna get me some mad air. Kurama shook his head and crouched slightly while Sasuke did the same. Find me, I won't move or open my eyes until you reach my position. Sasuke whispered lowly to Kurama, who nodded in return. Was it a dick move to abuse Kurama's semblance like this? Yes, but Sasuke was not going to let the already monstrous reserves of Naruto Uzumaki be backed by Kurama's own near-endless supply. That would just spell doom for anyone that tried to hire Naruto and his partner down the line. Naruto tensed only momentarily before his spring pad sent him flying. At the last moment, he pushed off with his feet and rocketed into the air, further than the recommended height. The whoop that left his mouth was loud and boisterous, much like the boy himself. Pray for the forest, Kurama said before he was launched. Sasuke shook his head and sighed. May the mighty Aum save some of it. Naruto passed through clouds before he started to descend, and on doing so, he brought his right fist back. His aura charged around him and made his skin give off a golden glow. This was his semblance, or at least, a small portion of it. His semblance, dubbed the Will of Fire by an elder back in his hometown, boosted his strength, stamina, and endurance by at least 5 times that of the average huntsman's already impressive aura supplement. It is always active and can only be increased, hence why Naruto came out practically unscathed when he was woken earlier that morning. Though he's never used it to its full potential, Naruto has been told that the boost was supposedly 20 times that of a normal human. No one knew for sure though, because the last person to have a semblance similar to his was his great-great-great-great maternal grandfather. Most of those documents were gone, lost to time. These thoughts came to an abrupt end as Naruto began to pass through the tops of trees without trouble, and then was unaffected by the branches that smacked against his face. The trees, however, could not say the same as they lost the brief battle against the force Naruto struck them with. The whole time he descended towards the Emerald Forest's floor, he had not broken his pose. Wait for it, Naruto told himself as he neared the ground. He grinned widely as he threw his fist forward. Now! Naruto's fist met the ground for not a millisecond before the ground caved in. A crater that was obscenely large was created around Naruto's landing spot, and for a moment, all he could see was dust. The dust was cleared by a gust of wind and Naruto stood up, without a scratch on his body. He beamed as he took in his landing's effect. Ah, yeah. That was awesome. I want to do it again. That must have been the Uzumaki boy, the headmaster said nonchalantly as a cloud of dust shot up over a massive area of the Emerald Forest. He took a sip of his coffee mug's contents. Very impressive. I think that's at least a mile in diameter. Glinda Goodwitch sighed and shook her head as she looked at her scroll. More like problematic in the future. His file did say he had a penchant for destruction. Yes. It also said he never left a project or minor job halfway finished. The headmaster let a smile cross his face, and the man turned to his longtime friend. I believe this year is going to be very interesting, Glinda. Glinda sighed and adjusted her glasses. You say that every year, Professor Ashpin. This time, I mean it. There you are. Sasuke looked up and smirked at the familiar faunus he'd come to sort of befriend. Your aura sense never fails you, does it? Kurama smirked as he adjusted the hold on his staff slightly and lowered his sunglasses. Don't flatter me, Uchiha. You just want me nearby so that my aura transfer can boost your Kirin. Well, that and to ensure Naruto doesn't have access to it. They shivered at the thought. Speaking of the idiot, did you feel the ground shake? Kurama asked. Sasuke chuckled and let his hand rest on the hilt of his sword. The ground? I'm pretty sure he moved the planet with that stun of his. Oh, so we should prepare for bizarre weather, then. Probably. Sasuke nodded. He looked around before he looked back at Kurama. So? North then? I retract my previous accusation. You only want me to be your compass. Kurama chuckled and began to walk away. This way, Uchiha. I can get us to Ashpin's little relics with relative ease. Sasuke blinked for a moment before he followed his new partner. You do know you probably jinxed us, right? What's the worst that could happen? I take it back, now you jinxed us. Naruto let his hands rest behind his head as he walked through the forest without a care in the world. I wonder who the first person I run into will be. I mean, I could work with Kurama easily. His transfer and my will of fire would be unstoppable. However, on the off chance that I don't run into him before someone else does, I need to keep thinking about my options. Naruto missed the snarl that came from behind him and the consequential leap that a shadowy figure made at him. It stopped and fell midair as a large glowing needle stuck from the side of its neck. I mean, Sasuke wouldn't be that bad. He could cover my distance problem. But he likes to be close up, too. Not to mention he's an asshole like 80% of the time. Another shadowy figure tried to pounce on Naruto, but like the last a glowing needle to the head took it out. Oh, what if I run into Yang? She'd be fun to team with. Plus, we could plan pranks together. Yet another figure tried to surprise attack the blonde, only to be felled by yet another needle. Then there's her sister Ruby. She's cute, but she seems to have some confidence issues. Not to mention she's a bit on the short side. That's gotta be it. A figure fell to a needle. Or Sasuke? Probably not. She's probably as antisocial as Sasuke used to be. Needle to monster neck. John, no. Any guy that can't keep his stomach calm or wears footy pajamas I can't partner with. Even I'm not cool enough to cover for him. Another needle embedded itself in another shadow. There's Pyrrha. She's hot, strong, confident, and not to mention she has red hair. Always a plus in my book. I wonder what type of fighter she is, though. A bear-like shadow fell to the mysterious needle. Like the others before it, it turned into a shadowy wisp before it faded away to nothing. At least I know one thing, Naruto stopped walking and crossed his arms over his chest as he closed his eyes and thought. I don't want that sneeze girl as my partner. He opened his eyes and turned around when a rabbit hopped out of a bush. Naruto chuckled and rubbed his neck. Man, I must be tense. Freaking out over a rabbit. Naruto tensed and brought his fists up as something dropped from the treetops. He relaxed when he saw it was the girl from before, who had started on the cliff on his left. She looked up at him with a small smile. It seems that we are partners. She gave a slight bow. I hope I don't let you down. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Don't worry about it, partner. I am Haku Yuki. The girl offered her hand. Naruto took it in his own and gave her a firm shake. Naruto Uzumaki. He replied with a grin. He retracted his hand and intertwined it with the other behind his head. Man, Sasuke and Kurama are gonna be so jealous that my partner is a babe. Haku twitched for a moment and then shuddered. Naruto stared at her for a moment before she relaxed and smiled at him. Actually, I'm a boy. There was nothing but silence. Seriously? Yes. Huh, you're one pretty boy, Haku. So, I've been told. Another moment of silence passed. So, do you know which way north is? Haku nodded and pointed to his left. This way. Cool. You wanna lead or should I? You don't seem to take too much damage, it would only make sense for you to take the lead. So, you want to use me as a human shield? Haku laughed lightly. A crude, but an unfortunately accurate simile. Naruto let out his own chuckle as he started to lead the way. It's fine. Gotta protect that pretty face of yours, I know how it is. I'll be getting a lot of flack for my appearance, won't I? Naruto let out another chuckle. Oh, you have no idea. Hey! You too! Wait up! Kurama and Sasuke stopped and turned around as two teens burst through the brush on their right. The first was a tall, broad-shouldered teen with burnt orange hair and clad in gray and gold-trimmed armor. The other was a teen more around their height with a mohawk of green hair and a shaved head. You guys seem to know where you're going, the armored teen said as he brought out a large mace. Maybe we should stick together. There is safety in numbers, Sasuke said after a moment. Kurama tilted his head in thought while his tail loosened for the briefest of moments. Perhaps dash. Dude, your belt's falling off. The other teen pointed at Kurama's waist. Mine of its own, I swear, Kurama said after he looked down and chuckled. He allowed his tail to fully unwind and looked at the two. I hope you don't mind dash. Wow, you poor bastard. The tall teen looked at Sasuke. Got partnered with an animal, huh? That's gotta suck. Has he stopped to mark his territory? The other asked with a chuckle. Whatever pleasant thoughts that either Sasuke or Kurama may have had about their two new companions vanished without any chance of return. Sasuke looked between the two before he looked back at Kurama. Would you like the honors? I've already started. Kurama growled. Sasuke nodded and looked at the confused duo. May I have your names? Yeah, I'm Carden Winchester and this is my partner, Russell Thrush. The tall teen, Carden, introduced himself. Why? Sasuke smiled lightly. I wish to know the names I'll have to write down for the search party. Carden frowned. What's that supposed to dash? Hey, Carden, I don't feel so hot. Russell groaned as he stumbled back. His skin had lost some color and he slumped against a tree. I think I'm gonna sit down for a bye. Russell conked out mid-word and fell to the ground. Carden looked at his fallen partner with worry and then looked at the other two. Hey, what just happened? His eyes started to droop. Why's everything getting fuzzy? Don't worry about it, Carden Winchester. Kurama walked over to the taller boy and pressed the ring of his staff against the teen's head. You'll only sleep for an hour or so, whether or not you become a Grimm's meal is not my concern. Before Carden could reply, Kurama pushed him back with his staff, and the knight-like teen fell to the forest floor, just as unconscious as his partner. Sasuke stared at the downed duo for a moment before he looked at his partner. You alright? Kurama sighed. It's times like this I wish more idiots were like Naruto. That's a terrifying thought. I know. Naruto stopped and held a hand up. Did you hear that? Haku nodded. It sounded like a girl was in trouble. I think that was a girl. Naruto mused with a smirk. But, I could be wrong. Haku sighed. I cannot help that my genetics made me appear more feminine than masculine, Naruto. I know, I just like ragging on you. Naruto grinned. He turned around and began to walk backwards. You know, I got a good feeling about all this. You've got the needle gun. Snowfall. Haku corrected with a light smile as he looked down at his unique weapon. Dust crystals were shaped into needle points that protruded from the back and made reloading and keeping track of his ammo simple. Right, that. While I have my badass stormbreakers to take something out up close. Naruto beamed as he looked at his gauntlet-covered hands. We're like a perfect yin-yang combo. You're all cool, quiet, and distant while I'm more in your face, loud and awesome. Haku smiled a bit more before he stopped walking and gained a concerned look. Naruto? I mean, even I know I can be loud, but I can't help it. It's way too fun to be loud. Naruto laughed as he continued to walk backwards. Not to mention I love being in the spotlight. Heck, if this huntsman thing doesn't work out, I'm fully prepared to break off into a rock band or something. Haku gained a strained smile. Yes, that's nice, but Naruto? Doubt that'll happen though, because once I start something, I never give it up. You can count on that, because if there's one thing Naruto Uzumaki doesn't do, is give up. Naruto grinned before he stopped walking and frowned. Hey, what's up? Why'd you stop walking, Haku? Because of that. Haku pointed behind Naruto. Naruto turned around and stared into soulless red eyes, most notably seen on a Grimm. He took a second to realize that he was in fact face to snout with a large bull-like Grimm. The white bony mask and armor that protected the creature's hide and head were littered with scars, at least 100 in total. 2 sharp horns protruded out of either side of the Grimm's head, both long enough to easily skewer 3 people each and still have room for more. The ancient Grimm snorted and the foul breath blew right into Naruto's face. Oh, crap baskets. Chapter 3, Knock Hard. It seems we're not the first ones here, Sasuke said dryly as he took note of the girl that Naruto and Kurama had deemed his female self. She was not alone, as with her was the blonde bombshell that made every internal Naruto sense go off. I had to backtrack at least 2 miles to find you. Of course, we're not going to be the first ones here. Kurama rolled his eyes and nodded to the girls. Ladies, a pleasure. No, it is not. Sasuke shook his head. Kurama gave his partner a confused look. Why not? Hey, you're the handsome guy that hung out with Whisker Boy, Yang said with a grin as she pointed at Sasuke. She gave him a flirtatious wink. You rethink my offer of having a Yan-ing threesome? Kurama looked horrified. Oh, dear she's just like him, I know. Sasuke cut Kurama off. He put a hand on his glasses-wearing friend's shoulder. Give yourself a minute to come to terms with it. Kurama braced himself on his knee and with his staff as he shuddered. Oh, merciful Aum, why do you hate me? I asked myself that too, Sasuke said with a nod. I mean, a female Sasuke I could handle. Hell, it was almost welcomed. Sasuke glowered at his partner while Blake pinched the bridge of her nose. Kurama continued despite this and pointed a shaky finger at Young. But that's too much. The only way this could get any worse is if we ran into my female self. He rubbed his face and sighed. Thankfully, the chances of that are slim to none. Sasuke shook his head. My partner, the only idiot who doesn't know when not to say those accursed words or something like that. I should have tried to find Naruto, he wouldn't have jinxed me. Hey, I did not jinx us. Kurama snapped back with a frown. He gestured to the area. Look around you. I got us to the relics without any Grimm interference. There was a crash and a boom by the edge of the forest. Sasuke and Kurama looked towards the sound before Sasuke looked at his partner. You were saying? That could have been anything. Kurama quickly replied. He tightened his grip on his staff and frowned as he looked back towards the unknown source of the crashing. But, maybe you should grab a relic just to be safe. Sasuke nodded and rushed over to a golden bishop, which he snatched off of the pedestal. He paused as he noted the other golden bishop remained as well and looked at the rest of the relics. The black and gold pieces were all in pairs, save for the respective king and queen of either set. If I'm right, then the teachers will bunch together the teams by the chess pieces. And there's already more than a few pairs that are gone. Sasuke narrowed his eyes. With a quick thought, he snatched the other golden bishop, with plans to give it to his other friend just to be safe. Incoming. The warning came from Blake, and Sasuke followed her gaze upwards towards the descending girl in red. Yang narrowed her eyes. Is that Ruby? Heads up. The falling Ruby was blindsided by a blur of multiple colors and sent to the woods. Kurama scratched his head. I think that was John. There was another crash and a masked bear-like Grimm, known as an Ursa, broke through the forest on their right. It reared onto its hind legs before it fell forward with a death rattle. On its back was a girl that made Sasuke freeze. Oh no! He groaned. Nora, unaware of the mental pain she'd unintentionally caused, looked down at the deceased Ursa with a frown. Ah, it's broken. Kurama looked at his partner with an arched brow. Friend of yours? Do you remember when we agreed that there was no one more insufferable than Naruto on a sugar high? Yes? We were wrong. Sasuke gained a faraway look in his eye. Horribly wrong. I'm starting to regret coming to Beacon. Kurama mumbled under his breath. So am I. Sasuke nodded slowly as Nora rushed by him without acknowledging his presence, something he thanked the heavens for vigorously. There was another crash to their left and a massive scorpion-like Grimm with a white mask and golden stinger broke through the woods with Pyrrha running right in front of it. Did she just run through the forest with a Deathstalker behind her? Blake asked incredulously. Really starting to regret coming to Beacon. Kurama amended his previous statement. Sasuke sighed. We should get paid for coming here, not the other way around. As if things couldn't get worse for the gathered teens, another Grimm burst through the forest, but this one had 2 students with it instead of just 1. In front of the bull-like creature, a familiar blonde had his feet planted firmly in the ground while he struggled to keep the bull from flinging him off of its face. Haku! Find that damn weak spot already! Naruto yelled to his partner, who was on the Grimm's back and trying to find a weak point to capitalize on. The back and sides are too heavily armored. Haku shouted back. He did a double take and widened his eyes when he saw that the other teens were in their path. He grew worried when none tried to move. Naruto! Behind you! Naruto cracked open an eye and looked over the gaping group. His eyes landed on one figure in particular and a grin spread across his face. Kurama. Transfer. Now. Kurama snapped out of his stupor and he reached out towards his blonde friend. His red aura shone brightly before a bright stream shot out from Kurama's palm and collided with Naruto's back. Naruto's skin gained a reddish hue as Kurama's aura mixed with his own, but the other effect of the transfer slowed the Grimm's charge to a near halt as Naruto's strength doubled. Sasuke, think you can stun it long enough so that we can get away? Naruto asked with a glance over his shoulder. Sasuke nodded and released his hold on his sword. He held his hands up and closed his eyes as his black aura flared to life. Static started to jump around his hands for the briefest of seconds before clouds began to form overhead. Sasuke, hurry up and bring the rain. Naruto ordered. Haku, get ready to move. Sasuke's eyes snapped open and he threw his hands down, just as a massive bolt of lightning descended from the sky onto the bull-like Grimm. Before the lightning connected, the two partners currently engaging the Grimm leapt away and landed in front of Kurama and Sasuke. The monster released a roar of pain as it was electrocuted before it slumped to the ground, smoking. Sasuke panted and the sky started to clear up while Naruto whooped. Ah yeah. Who are the best huntsmen? We are. Booyah! Correct me if I'm wrong, Naruto, but I think your celebrating is a bit too early, Haku said. Naruto gave him a confused look and Haku pointed up. We have another problem. Naruto looked up and grimaced as he saw a Nevermore. He frowned and squinted his eyes. Wait, is that the sneeze girl? Is it wrong that I hope she falls? Kurama asked. Not really. Naruto, Sasuke and Blake replied. Yes. Haku and the others said. Kurama shrugged the opinions of the majority off. My opinion matters more to me than yours. Yang. The gathered teens looked to the side as Ruby jumped towards them from the tree, her silver eyes locked on her sister. Ruby. Yang beamed and held her arms out to catch the younger girl. Nora. The eccentric orange-haired girl cheered as she popped up between the two sisters before they could be properly reunited. Naruto snickered. I like her. Down boy. Kurama ordered. He looked to the other side at the sound of a loud smack. Incoming redhead, 3 o'clock. I got this one. Naruto proclaimed as he stepped forward and held his arms out. He caught Pyrrha as she collided with his side and he gave her a cheesy grin. Long time no see, Pyrrha. You don't write, you don't call, it's why I'm starting to think you don't like me. Pyrrha smiled back at him as she stood up on her feet. Thank you, Naruto. Don't mention it. Naruto waved off with a smile. I'd catch any pretty girl that was sent flying by a Deathstalker's claw. Oh, good, we're all here, now we can die together. Yang cheerfully threw in while Pyrrha flushed at the compliment. Help! The group looked up again at Weiss cry. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. You know, I think she's going to fall. She'll be fine. Kurama waved off his concern. She's falling. Ren and Sasuke pointed out. Think we'll get a reward for digging her mangled corpse a grave? Kurama asked. Dude, that was too dark. Naruto reprimanded his friend. Kurama snorted and rested Rikudo against his shoulder. Says you. No, I must agree with Naruto, Haku said. Even for a family with a reputation like the Shnee, you should show kindness in situations like this. Kurama huffed and watched as John leapt from the trees towards her. Oh look, PJ is playing hero. Ah, they grow up so fast, Naruto said as he wiped a fake tear away from his eye. So, how's he going to protect them on the way down? Think his semblance is something like a, I dunno, shield? Maybe it gives him the mad hops. Pyrrha grimaced as she watched John and Weiss fall. I don't know if John knows what a semblance is, let alone what his may be. You're kidding me. Sasuke blanched. He looked at Naruto and then up at the descending duo. Wow, there's a blonde guy that's dumber than Naruto. I never thought I'd see the day. Oi! What's that supposed to mean, jackass? You know, Naruto, if you moved fast enough, I think you could, never mind. Haku winced as John hit the ground with a loud smack and Weiss fell directly on his spine. Oh, he's going to need medical attention. My hero. My back. Naruto chuckled and then cracked his knuckles. Well, I guess we should probably do something about the Nevermore and the Deathstalker. Dibs on the flying one. I need at least another 5 minutes before I can use Kirin all out again. Sasuke noted as he looked at his sparking hand. He snapped his fingers and pulled out a golden bishop. Sasuke tossed the relic to his friend. Here, I figured you'd forget to snatch it if someone didn't grab it for you. Oh, right. Relics. Naruto hummed as he looked it over. What do you think it is? Haku chuckled. That's a bishop from a chess set, Naruto. Oh, I knew that. This is all fine and dandy, Kurama said as he twisted Rikudo's pole and it shifted into a rifle form. Kurama started to fire off shots at the approaching Deathstalker. But we have bigger problems to worry about than whether or not the idiot can identify a chess piece. Oi! I got it. Ruby cried out as she rushed forward. Ruby, wait. Yang reached out as if to grab the girl inside. Crap. Not one for plans, is she? Naruto asked. He looked over and paled as he saw his monstrous Grimm start to stir. Haku, the bull is getting up. Oh, crap baskets. Haku grimaced and prepared snowfall. Huh, so you say that too? I thought Naruto was the only one, Kurama mused. He looked at Sasuke. I hope they're not too much alike, right? Sasuke? Sasuke was staring at Haku with a small pink hue in his cheeks. Oi, Uchiha. Gawk later, snap out of it. Kurama barked as he slapped the boy upside the head. He ignored the glare he received for the action and pointed at the Grimm bull. We got bigger problems than your confused sexual identity. Sasuke glared at his partner. I do not have a confused identity. Ignoring his two friends, Naruto let his semblance rise slightly until his skin began to glow lowly and brought his fists up. Alright, round 2 big guy. And this time, I'm charging at you. Wait. It's not up yet, we should stay together as long as there's no immediate threat. Haku suggested. Pira nodded. She's right. Our best hope is to band together against these beasts until we can make an escape. Naruto snickered and Haku sighed as the red-headed girl misidentified him. Kurama let a smirk cross his face, since he could smell the gender, and Sasuke nodded in agreement with Pira. He drew his sword, a curved Chinese saber, and spun it in his hand so it unfolded into a bow with a dust launcher attached to the string. We have more support roles here, we can hang back and take pot shots at them, Sasuke said. He looked at Nora and Run. Do you two have distance weaponry? Yep, duck butt. Nora chirped as she pulled out a grenade launcher. She ignored the glare Sasuke gave her as she patted the weapon lovingly. Magnhile's ready to make things explode. Ren merely let bladed guns slide out from his sleeves and nodded. We can provide cover fire if necessary. I can as well, Pira said with her spear now in a rifle form similar to Rikudo's, but without the golden scope. I'm more attuned to close combat, though. That's fine dash. Ruby. Yang's horrified cry cut Sasuke off and the group turned to take in the scenario. Apparently, the Nevermore had fired its feathers, each about as large as the average human, at the retreating scythe wielder. One feather snagged Ruby's red cloak and the others had trapped Yang. All the while, the Deathstalker approached Ruby with ill intent. Well, she's boned. Kurama deadpanned. He was thankfully proven wrong as a white blur shot past Yang and halted the Deathstalker's golden stinger and right claw. Kurama's eye twitched. She did that just to make me look like an ass. It's all about you, isn't it? Sasuke asked as he watched Ruby and Weiss have a quick, heartfelt chat. Duh. Well, glad to see you two made up, Yang said as she, Ruby and Weiss rejoined the group. Those aren't the words I would use, but I suppose it's fine. Weiss muttered before she glared at Kurama and he replied with a raised finger. Her attention went to the madly grinning Naruto and her glare intensified. You, however, I still don't like. Naruto put his hands over his chest and gained a pained look. Oh, Miss Sneeze, the wound goes deep. It's Schnee. The bird thing is coming back. John pointed out nervously. He grimaced as the Deathstalker's trapped claw and stinger started to crack the ice. Oh man. How are we going to fight both of these things? Well, we don't have to fight, Ruby said. Naruto cupped his mouth. Boo. No one likes a quitter. Shut up. Sasuke and Kurama snapped at him as they smacked him upside the head. Gah. My brain. Anyway, the objective is right in front of us, right? Ruby gestured to the relics and grinned at the gathered teens. We just need to get the relics and go back to the cliff, don't we? Hey, yeah, that's right. John grinned. Grab the item and run to live another day? I can get behind that plan. Ah, but guys, think of the unsupervised violence. Naruto whined. He hung his head as everyone seemed to ignore him. You guys are no fun. Haku smiled and patted his partner on the back. There, Naruto. I'm sure there'll be another chance for you to, bust some heads? Naruto sighed and grinned at his partner. Yeah, you're probably right, Haku. Man, you're the best partner a guy could ask for. John and Ruby rushed up to the platforms and grabbed their own relics before they regrouped and ran south towards the cliffs. Yang lingered behind for a second, which prompted Naruto and Blake to slow up. What is it? Blake asked her partner. Yang sent a meaningful glance to Ruby as she stopped and oversaw the group for a moment before she continued to lead the way. Naruto let a small laugh leave his mouth and intertwined his hands behind his head. This is one of those proud sibling moments, isn't it? Something like that, Whisker Boy. Yang chuckled and patted his shoulder. Come on, before they leave us behind. The group of 12 broke through the woods into some misty ruins. Sasuke, at the head of the rear, looked up as a shadow passed overhead. Scatter! He cried and the massive group did so. Ruby, Yang, Blake and Weiss broke off to the right and John, Pyrrha, Rin and Nora went left while Sasuke, Kurama, Naruto and Haku ran straight ahead. The respective partners fell behind massive pillars in the area as the Nevermore perched on a tower not far ahead. The trees rustled and the Deathstalker burst through with a shrill cry. Oh man, run! John ordered as he led Pyrrha deeper into the ruins. Nora, distract the bird, Rin said as he raced to regroup with the others. Come on, hurry up. Sasuke said as he started to fire dust arrows at the Deathstalker to slow its approach. We'll cover you. Kurama called to Ruby as he fired at the bird while Nora laughed and did the same with her grenade launcher. The Nevermore let out an infuriated shriek before it swooped away to circle around. Nora let out a cheerful laugh. Bye-bye, birdie. Nora, heads up. Ron warned his partner as he and Blake fended off the Deathstalker before it could blindside her. Sasuke ran towards them and added his own melee to the group as his bow shifted back into a Dao sword. The trees rustled again and a loud bellow made Naruto look up. A wild grin crossed his face as his eyes landed on the charging Grimm bull. Oh yeah. Now it's round 2, ugly. Kurama. Got it. Kurama put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and filled him with red aura. He took hip fire shots with Rikudo's rifle mode at the charging bull until Naruto's skin and eyes had turned a bright red. That's all I can give you for now. You'd lose control if I gave you any more. It'll be enough. Haku, cover them and keep an eye out for that nevermore. Naruto told his partner before he shot forward with a crazed laugh. Come on, big boy. Let's rock this joint. Is he alright? Ruby asked as she helped perform cover fire with her rifle while Yang went to join Nora in attacking the Deathstalker. This is what he lives for, Kurama said as he turned and fired at the approaching Nevermore. Anyone with good aim and long-distance focus on the Nevermore. Mid to close range fighters, take the Deathstalker. What about the bull? Haku asked. There was a loud bang followed by a roar and after that came another crazed laugh. Come on, ya pansy. That the best you got. Let Naruto hold it off for now, Kurama said as he took aim at the Nevermore swing. The massive bird-like Grimm let out another angry shriek and fled once more. Kurama looked back and took in the situation with the Deathstalker. Sasuke. I don't think it's big enough to cross this bridge. Then we retreat to the tower. Sasuke called back. He shifted his sword back into a bow and began to retreat while he took shots at the scorpion-like Grimm. Fall back. Get to the tower. Go go go. Pyrrha ordered as she turned her spear into a rifle and joined Sasuke in providing cover fire. Yang, Blake, Weiss and Nora ran past Ruby and Kurama with John not too far behind them. Haku and Rin stopped to provide some rapid-fire support to Sasuke and Pyrrha once they made it to the middle of the bridge. Ruby and Kurama were the last to start their approach to the bridge and barely made it before the claw of their current foe slammed into their previous location. The Deathstalker let out an infuriated shriek when it couldn't reach them. Ruby looked to their left as another shriek rang through the air and her eyes went wide. Nevermore. Jump! Kurama cried out as the Nevermore flew low and took out a large portion of the stone bridge. Those that were crossing thankfully made it across without much trouble. John got up to his feet and went to the edge of the gap. He clenched his hand into a fist when he saw the Deathstalker approaching the four on the other side. We need to give them more support. Yes, we do. Kurama agreed as he looked past the Deathstalker and saw Naruto get knocked into the stone ruins by the Grimm bull. He scowled. Idiot needs to find the cap of his damn semblance before he gets himself killed. What are we waiting for? Let's go help them. Nora proclaimed. John shuffled uneasily for a moment. I don't think any of us could jump that far. Probably not, but I know how a lever works, Kurama said as he looked to Nora. He grabbed John and dragged the blonde back with him before he gave the girl a thumbs up. Nora grinned at him and pulled Magnhild from its place on the small of her back before it shifted into a large hammer that she lifted up over her head. No, this is a bad idea. Bad idea. Bad idea. John cried out as he saw Nora bring her hammer down. The portion of the bridge she struck sank downwards while the portion Kurama and John stood on shot into the air like when they were fired from the springboards they used earlier that morning. Nora laughed and stood on the head of Magnhild and pulled a trigger that fired a grenade, which propelled her across the gap. She flipped over her friends and brought her hammer down right on the Deathstalker's head just as John landed in a heap beside Pyrrha and Kurama landed in a roll next to Sasuke. About time you got here, Sasuke said with a wry grin. He looked past the Deathstalker at the bull that was currently driving Naruto through all of the stone wall on the right of the valley. That idiot's going to get himself killed. Yep. Kurama agreed. He looked over at Pyrrha as Nora unleashed another grenade into the Deathstalker's face. Can you four handle this? Pyrrha looked to Rin, who nodded, and then at John, who drew his sword and shakily did the same. She looked back with a small smile. We will take care of the Deathstalker, go help Naruto. Don't have to tell us twice. Kurama grinned back as he and Sasuke ran past the Deathstalker on either side while Haku rushed forward and climbed up the stuck stinger. They bypassed the Deathstalker and ran towards the sounds of roars and bangs. As he approached the Grimm bull, with Naruto nowhere in sight, Haku flicked his wrist and Snowfall shifted from a gun into a whip, with the dust needles forming the tip, and used the weapon to grab hold of the Grimm bull's horn as it ran past. "You're just going to get pulled back," Sasuke cried out. Haku gave him a smile and put his hand in the air. A second later and the air in front of his hand shimmered before it became a square ripple that solidified into a reflective glass. Haku vanished into the glass and his whip accompanied him. The whip went taut and the Grimm bull's head jerked down onto the ground, which made a large trench as it did. Kurama blinked at the sight and started when Haku stepped out of thin air next to him. "How did you dash?" "My semblance," Haku said quickly as he twisted his wrist and the whip unwound itself from the bull before it followed him through the glass and appeared beside him. Haku shifted Snowfall back into the gun form and looked at Kurama. "I call it mirror. It allows me to travel quickly between short distances in a void between time and space. Unfortunately, because of this passage, I cannot take another living person with me." "Still, that's impressive," Kurama noted. He shifted Rikudo from the rifle form back into the staff and flicked his wrist. The blades that dangled from the ring of the staff went straight and aligned at the top to form a spear. "The most I can do is take someone's aura and add it to my own or to another person's. Aura transfer. As well as a high aura sense." "Is that why your eyes are always concealed?" Haku asked. Kurama hesitated for a moment. "Yes." "Enough chatter, where's the idiot?" Sasuke asked as he joined his partner and the pretty girl he met the night before. "You thought you could keep me down, huh? Not so tough down here." A boisterous cry made the three look over towards the bull as Naruto charged at it. His grin was wild and crazed and his left fist was brought back behind his head. The punch was unleashed at the bull's chin and the massive Grimm flew back a couple yards. Naruto didn't let up and continued to assault the Grimm with a cackle of glee crossed with one of insanity. Kurama sighed. "This is why I'm glad I became your partner, Sasuke. He can't handle my Faunus aura as well as you can. Speaking of, think you can give me a charge to boost Kirin?" Sasuke asked. Kurama nodded and placed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder. He looked at Haku as he transferred his aura to his partner. "Help the idiot while we prepare to take the Grimm down, will you?" Haku gave a nod and a small smile. "Of course, he is my partner." "Good on you." Kurama grinned back as the feminine boy slipped into another one of his mirrors. Kurama looked at Sasuke, whose eyes were shut and a small flush had painted itself across his face. Kurama's grin turned into a smirk. Well, it seems that someone has a bit of a crush on the new member of our little group." "Kurama, shut up." Sasuke snapped with a frown. He turned his head away slightly. "Besides, you saw her. She's gorgeous." Kurama's smirk widened. Sasuke thought Haku was a girl? Oh, he was so going to milk this for all that it was worth. Now all he had to do, aside from survive the monster Grimm attacks, was ensure that neither Naruto nor Haku himself ruined this for him. Keeping this thought in mind, Kurama only said one more thing to his partner. "Well, at least I can tell Naruto that you're definitely over the librarian fetish." "I never had a damn fetish." Up. Up. Down. Down. Left. Right. Left. Right. Backhand. And hammer shot. Naruto cackled as he finished off his 10-punch combo with a double-fisted hammer punch to the Grimm bull's snout. The Grimm flew back and collapsed the remains of the stone wall while Naruto laughed. "Eat that, bitch. I call it the Konami combo." A hand gently placed itself on Naruto's shoulder and the red-eyed blonde turned to face the owner of said hand. Haku nodded towards the other two boys and then looked up as clouds formed overhead. I think we should probably fall back, Naruto. Naruto let out a whine as he looked from Haku to the slowly rising Grimm bull and back. But I'm winning. It would seem that way, but if you haven't noticed, none of your attacks have left any real damage to the Grimm's body. Haku pointed out. They looked back as a loud bang echoed around the valley. The tower started to collapse after the Nevermore had flown through it, and the Deathstalker seemed to have the upper hand against the four that faced it. Not to mention, we could help out the others if we finish one off. Yeah, you're right, we should finish this. Naruto sighed as his eyes reverted back to a calm ocean blue. His skin lost the red sheen and once more gained a bright golden glow as he faced the rising Grimm bull. Naruto looked at Haku and arched a brow. If I can get it to expose its stomach, can you pin it down with that whip thing? Easily, I just need a clear path through its legs, Haku said with a nod. Naruto slammed his fists together and his gauntlets whirred as two barrels popped up on the back of his fists. Alright. Let's end this already with a big bang. He charged forward just as the Grimm bull stepped out of the rubble his last attack caused. Naruto threw his left hand behind him and tightened his fist as a shot fired from the barrel on his hand. The gunshot propelled him through the air to close the gap between him and the Grimm, but before he could impact with its face, Naruto spun so that he would slide on his back under the Grimm bull's head. Eat this, you overgrown piece of steak. Naruto's right fist flew forward and collided with the Grimm's shadowy skin before the barrel on the back of his hand unleashed a large blast into the Grimm. The Grimm bull reared back and was toppled as Haku used his semblance to quickly disappear through several of his mirrors. With Snowfall in its whip mode, Haku was able to form a tight binding that kept the Grimm bull's underbelly exposed. A final ripple appeared next to Naruto, who grabbed the outstretched hand of his partner to pull him through and keep the whip taut. Sasuke, they've got it. Kurama announced as his aura mixed with Sasuke's and the latter threw his hands towards the darkened sky. Sasuke's now red eyes snapped open and he threw his hands down with a yell as a massive bolt of lightning, 3 times that of the last one that struck the Grimm bull, descended from the heavens. The Grimm bull, unable to move due to the binds, let out a bellow before the lightning bolt struck it. The monster was electrocuted to black wisps just as Ruby managed to decapitate the Nevermore and the Deathstalker's impaled body fell into the abyss below the collapsed tower. Haku twisted his wrist and Snowfall returned to its gun mode while Naruto let out a triumphant cry as he threw his fists into the air. Ah, yeah. Now that's what I'm talking about. Naruto exclaimed joyfully before he threw his arm around Haku's neck in a hug. We charbroiled that thing. Indeed, we did. Haku let a chuckle escape him while he slumped to the ground in mild exhaustion. I don't remember the last time I've made so many mirrors. That was cool, too. I was right, you're an awesome partner. Naruto laughed as he waved at the others as they started to return their trek back towards Beacon. Yo! Who else wants to go find another Grimm? No! The other 10 yelled back at him. You guys are lame. Carden Winchester, Dove Bronzewing, Russell Thrush, and Skylark. You retrieve the Black Bishop pieces and from this day forward, you 4 will work together as Team CRDL, Cardinal, lead by Carden Winchester. Ojban's voice echoed through the auditorium as the teams for the first-year students were announced. From the side behind their 8 other friends, Naruto and Haku clapped politely while Sasuke and Kurama glared or sneered at the 2 they had encountered in the forest. I was really hoping those guys would get eaten. Kurama muttered to his partner. Sasuke nodded. As was I. John Arc, Lyrin, Piranikos and Nora Valkyrie. Ojban nodded as the 4 in question stepped forward while the applause died down. The 4 of you retrieved the white rook pieces. Naruto frowned. But I thought they were gold? Shush, Naruto. Haku nudged his partner with a small smile on his face as Ojban continued. The 4 of you will work together as Team JNPR, Juniper, Ojban said. His next words made a few in the group of 12 blink in surprise or cheer, as Naruto did. led by John Arc. Yeah. Go PJ. Kurama hooped from his place on the wall while Naruto whistled loudly as the boy stuttered in surprise. They laughed with many others as Pira's congratulatory shoulder punch knocked him to the ground. The room quieted once more as the four girls walked onto the stage, save for a few catcalls. Yang ate it up and gave a wave to the room, winking at Naruto when he gave his own whistle. Blake Belladonna, Ruby Rose, Waishni, and Yang Xiaolong, the four of you retrieved the White Knight pieces. From this day forward you will work together as Team RWBY, Ruby. Ajban let a small smile cross his face as he looked at the youngest of the four girls. Led by Ruby Rose. Good job, Ruby. Haku nodded in approval next to Sasuke. Yeah. Go Ruby. Naruto cheered while Kurama gave a whistle and clapped. Ruby was gobsmacked while her sister engulfed her in a hug. She could hardly talk as they walked off stage and Naruto led his merry band of four up. And finally, Kurama Otsutsuki, Naruto Uzumaki, Uchiha Sasuke, and Haku Yuki. You four retrieved the white bishop pieces. They were gold. Naruto cut in, which caused him to get elbowed by his partner. Ow. Luckily, Ajban continued without taking notice of his interjection. And from henceforth you shall be known as Team NHKS, Nox, led by Naruto Uzumaki. Yes. Eat that, Khan Academy. Who's most likely to end up in jail or eaten by a Grimm now? Naruto cheered with a wide grin as the room applauded for him. He brought Haku into a one-armed hug and lightly punched his shoulder. It's official, we're going to be the greatest team on Remnant. Haku chuckled and patted his partner's arm. If you say so, Naruto. But, please loosen your grip. Kurama chuckled while Sasuke sighed. We're never going to get hired after our first job. Probably not, Kurama said with a smile. But it's sure as hell going to be 4 fun years. That's if our leader doesn't get us expelled. What's the worst that could happen? Chapter 4, Day 1. Most pretty, so beautiful, yes, lovelies, I love you all, even you. Naruto had a silly grin on his face as he slept in his assigned bed. The grin widened as he snuggled into his bed and drool started to pool round his cheek. I love you all, my wonderful, luscious, well-rounded and smoking hot, your giant, big, squeezable, noodles, I love you, ramen. Haku stared at his slumbering partner with mild surprise while he waited for the bathroom to become open. He had awoken early at 6, but was surprised to find that Kurama had beaten him to the bathroom. Sasuke was just now starting to stir while Naruto, well. Ramen noodles, so yummy, I want, in my tummy. He was still in dreamland. Didn't peg him to be such a talkative sleeper, did you? Kurama's voice startled the other boy slightly. Haku arched a brow as he took in the modified uniform that Kurama wore. He ditched the jacket entirely and replaced the blue vest with a red one along with a tie that had a curled-up fox pin in the middle of it, rather than the plain red tie they had been issued. His sunglasses were back in place, and Haku was slightly curious as to what the faunus eyes looked like. Realizing he'd yet to answer Kurama's question, Haku gave him a sheepish smile. I hardly know anything about any of you. We all sort of rushed to our rooms and went to bed. You three fell asleep before I had even finished my evening wash. Kurama nodded and brought his tail around in order for him to brush it. Sorry about that, but I had drained 2 other students in the forest and empowered Naruto twice along with Sasuke's one time. It was taxing for me. Sasuke, likewise, was exhausted from using his semblance along with my aura. Naruto, he's just a lazy bastard. Haku chuckled sheepishly and gathered his clothes. So, I see. If you'll excuse me, I think I'll shower and dress before the other 2 wake up. Sure thing. Don't worry about any fuzzy surprises, I don't shed when I bathe. Kurama chuckled at his own weak joke while Haku let out a soft laugh of his own. Kurama waited until the bathroom door had shut and the shower had started before he looked over to his partner. Haku's in the shower now, you can stop covering yourself. Screw you, Otsutsuki. Sasuke grumbled as he sat up and covered his morning problem with his blanket. How the hell are you and Naruto not having this problem with her so close by? Kurama's grin widened while he carefully brushed his tail. I can't say anything for the ramen addict, but as for me? I'm not that interested in you hairless apes. I plan to find myself a nice faunus girl later in life and have a litter or two like my father did. Sasuke snorted and waited for a few minutes before his morning problem went away. He looked around the rather bland room and then looked over at the generic clock on the wall. Only 6:45? We've got less than 2 hours before classes start. Well, would you like to wake Sleeping Beauty or EGH? Kurama suddenly went rigid and clapped his hands over his ears as he fell off of his bed to the floor. Son of a bitch. Who blew that whistle? Who? What? Where's the ramen thief? Naruto asked after he shot up from his bed ready to fight. He looked around the room and then frowned. Hey, this isn't Ichiraku's all-you-can-eat ramen buffet. That was just a dream, idiot. Sasuke grumbled as he wiggled a finger in his ear. He got up and went over to the window, which he promptly slammed shut. Soundproofed up until you leave a window open. When I find whoever blew that goddamned whistle, I'm going to kill them, Kurama said with a low growl as he got back to his feet and adjusted his glasses. He fixed his uniform and looked at his tail and the comb on the floor. Oh, damn it, I lost count. Ah, man, that was just another dream. Naruto sulked. He raised a fist to the ceiling and shook it menacingly. Curse you, reality. You show me happiness and then snatch it away before I can partake in it. Partake in what? The three looked at Haku as he stepped out of the shower in the men's uniform. Sasuke looked very surprised at this while Naruto and Kurama merely glanced at him. Naruto gave the uniform a once-over and shook his head while his arms crossed over his shoulders firmly. I'm not wearing that. Too stuffy. Kurama sighed. Naruto, you can modify your uniform slightly, but you must wear it to class. Make me. Kurama looked at Sasuke, who stood up and promptly went to the bathroom with his clothes in his arm. It was his way of saying, this is your problem, and I'll let you deal with it. Frankly, Kurama felt as though his partner had ditched him. With an aggravated sigh, Kurama looked at his longtime friend. Naruto dash. Naruto's eyes darted to the faunus. Kurama, that thing tells me that the wearer is high class, obnoxious, snotty, no fun and bland. I am none of those things. Kurama sighed. Well, you're wrong on 2 accounts. What's that supposed to mean? Naruto asked with a scowl. Naruto, Haku said as he put a hand on his partner's shoulder before Kurama could answer him. As our team leader, you are expected to set an example. By not conforming to the rules, you make yourself look ill-suited to be the team leader and make us look unequipped or unprepared for the challenges that we face ahead. Naruto frowned and crossed his arms childishly. Yeah, but there's no orange. And thus, we come to the real problem with the uniform, Kurama said with a roll of his eyes. He gestured to himself. Naruto, look at me. I all but ditched the jacket and swapped out the vest and tie. This is still acceptable and you can wear your uniform however you wish. I gotta wear the shoes, shirt, and pants, though? And a tie. Kurama added. Naruto grimaced. I hate dressing nice. I totally agree. Kurama nodded. They looked up as Sasuke walked out with the jacket and vest over his shoulder. They can't seriously expect us to wear these without modifying them, can they? Sasuke asked. Haku looked down at himself and arched a brow. I don't see anything wrong with it. That's because it suits you, Sasuke said with a smile. Naruto blinked in confusion while Kurama smirked and snickered. Before the leader of Team NHKS could ask what was so funny, Sasuke looked at him. Your turn to shower, idiot. Don't use all the water in the ocean. You guys are so mean. Naruto huffed as he disappeared into the bathroom with the uniform and a few other clothes in his arms. Haku looked at the two and folded his arms over his chest. He does have a point. That's rather cruel to call your friend an idiot multiple times. True, but we're just ribbing him. Sasuke shrugged. He's not dumb, but he's not the brightest bulb in the house, either. He knows when we're kidding around. However, we probably should warn you about his classroom habits. Habits? Haku asked as he ignored the loud bangs that came from a nearby room. Sasuke and Kurama exchanged a look before Kurama turned to Haku. Naruto does not do well in classrooms. Does he have a learning disorder? Haku asked. Sasuke shook his head as he pulled on a navy vest that had his symbol on the back. No, he's just bored. He never really understood what use any technical words or theories could have in a field. He's a kinesthetic learner through and through. Outside of class and on a mission, there's no one else I'd want to lead me. Kurama nodded. He's very good at what he does. Interesting, Haku said as he took in this new information about his partner. His thoughts were put on hold as Naruto came out of the bathroom in part of the school uniform without the jacket on. His white shirt's sleeves were rolled up to his bicep, and somehow in the few minutes Naruto was in the bathroom, another patch with Naruto's swirl-like symbol was sewn almost professionally into the right shoulder. Unlike his friends, he'd kept the navy vest with Beacon's insignia and Naruto was in the process of adjusting his orange tie. This thing is such a pain, Naruto said with a sigh as he gave up. He looked around at the surprised looks on his friends' faces. What? Damn, stupid, you clean up good. If you had dressed up more often back in Con, I think you could have had at least 2 girlfriends by now. Kurama mused with a grin. He was comfortable with his sexuality enough to know when a fellow male looked good, but whereas Haku was nearly a girl in beauty or Sasuke had the right angles that gave off the prince-like appearance, Naruto was the handsome rogue, much like himself. Oi! I had a girlfriend. A few dates with a girl doesn't make her your girlfriend, Naruto. Sasuke drawled. Naruto stuck his tongue out at Sasuke and crossed his arms over his chest. He looked at the door when there was another bang. Geez, who's being so crazy at a stupid hour? Probably PJ, Kurama said nonchalantly as he resumed brushing his tail. Think they're up? Naruto asked as he leaned against his designated dresser. He watched Haku and Sasuke as they began to make their beds and looked at his mess with an indifferent gaze. Hard not to be after that whistle. Kurama grumbled. An hour later, Naruto led his team out of their room, with Haku beside him looking at their schedule and map of Beacon. Kurama followed behind them, his brushed tail swished lazily inches from the ground, and Sasuke walked alongside him, his face buried in the most recent release of Ninjas of Love. You know, a lot of people give the Toad crap for his dirty books, but I have to say, there's some decent plot here. Sasuke mused. I still can't believe you're reading that in public. Haku muttered distractedly as he looked on the map for their first class. To Sasuke, however, it sounded angry and he grimaced. Kurama saw this and grinned widely. Oh, this could be fun. I totally agree, he said with a nod. Only the most perverted men can read such garbage in public. Sasuke snapped the book shut and glared at Kurama, who merely gave him a grin in return. Naruto, who walked lazily with his hands intertwined behind his head, paused as a faint yell came from somewhere behind him. Did you guys hear that? Hear what? Haku, Kurama, and Sasuke asked. Kurama's tail flicked and he tilted his head. Ishum, I think our clock's off by a few minutes, he said. Haku lowered the map and looked back at him. Why do you say that? Kurama stepped to the side of the walk and gestured for the others to do the same. Well, for one thing, most of the aura I sense is already gathered in large groups. However, there are a few small groups, including us, that are outside of the gathered areas. Two such small groups are rapidly approaching and should pass by in 5, 4, 3, 2. We're late! John cried out as he and his team followed Team RWBY. Naruto waved at the two teams as they shot past and then let his hands rest behind his head. We should probably fix our clock, Sasuke noted as he pulled his book out from behind his back. He'd seen what happened to a few boys that dared show some girls they read the series, and with a group comprised of 6 girls, Sasuke didn't want to take any chances. He was already on thin ice with Haku as it is. Man, what's done is done. Naruto shrugged. Can't fix the past. But you can determine the future. Team NHKS looked to their right as Professor Ojpin and Glinda Goodwitch stopped at the intersection beside them. Ojpin had his coffee mug in hand while Glinda had her scroll out and was looking something over. Naruto smiled at the headmaster and gave a small wave. Morning, Professor. Mr. Uzumaki. Ojpin nodded back and took a sip from his mug. Aren't you worried about being late for class? Naruto chuckled sheepishly and let one of his hands fall to his side while the other rubbed his neck. We weren't 5 minutes ago when we thought our room's clock was working fine, but now that we know otherwise, there wasn't much chance for us to be on time anyway. As my old teacher Kakashi used to say, why hurry when we'll already be declared late? Ojpin let a small smile cross his face. Kakashi Hatake? I was not aware he'd taken to teaching. He's a good huntsman, a wise man as well. Wise is not the word I would use to describe him. Glinda drawled as she looked up from her scroll and her gaze landed on Naruto and his team. She shut her scroll with a snap and crossed her arms. Mr. Uzumaki, where are your jackets and ties? We ditched them. They were too stuffy, Naruto said with a shrug. Sasuke clapped his hand over his face while Kurama chuckled at the blunt honesty. Haku merely sighed and folded his campus map up. There was no real reason to have it out anymore since, like Naruto said, they were already late. Mr. Uzumaki, it is listed in Beacon Academy's rules for students to attend classes in uniform. Glinda frowned at the boy. Ojpin cleared his throat and looked at his friend. Now, Glinda, you as well as I know that adjustments can be made or accessories can be added to the uniform. In this case, it seems that Team NHKS has decided to exchange some materials while keeping with the style. Professor Ojpin. Glinda began to say only to stop herself and sigh. Of course, Professor. It is your school. Quite. Ojpin agreed with a small smile before he looked at Team NHKS. And while your tardiness today can be overlooked, I would advise you not let it become a habit, Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto let a nervous chuckle out and nodded. Right, sorry Professor Ojpin. Professor, since you're here could you tell us where our classroom is? Haku asked politely. Ojpin nodded and pointed down the way teams RWBY and JNPR had run. Team NHKS walked off after thanking him and the headmaster took a sip of his coffee. A nice group of boys, aren't they Glinda? Mr. Uzumaki and Mr. Otsutsuki are highly rated in combat, but their penchant for mischief and troublemaking when together worries me, Glinda said as she adjusted her glasses. And while Mr. Uchiha and Mr. Yuki are not prone to the same delinquency, I do not have confidence that they'll be able to contain the other two. So, you have informed me time and again when we reviewed their initiation. Ojpin wryly replied before he took another sip from his coffee mug and continued his stroll. My grandfather said Peter, hello, boys. A rotund man at the front of a classroom said when Team NHKS came in through the doors. Team NHKS, was it? Yes sir, Naruto said with a grin while his teammates walked down a few steps and slid into a row, leaving the seat on the end for Naruto. They had been tardy all day and after their last class, this fact had earned them a talking to from their professor. The team leader scratched the back of his head as he looked at the last professor he'd have to deal with today. Sorry we're late, we sort of got lost on the road of life. Sasuke groaned and let his head fall onto the desk in front of him while Kurama let out a single laugh. Haku sighed and pulled out his scroll to take some notes for the class. The professor seemed to accept this answer, much to the bewilderment of the other students, since he nodded his head and smiled. Ah, very problematic that road can be. It takes a well-educated mind and a finely tuned body to traverse it with ease. You may have a seat, Mr. Uzumaki. I'm Professor Port, if you didn't already know. Thanks, Professor P. Naruto gave a two-fingered salute and plopped down in his seat. Professor Port nodded back and looked around the classroom. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, my story. You see, back when I was a young lad. Haku nearly jumped when Naruto suddenly slumped over, out cold and letting out soft snores. The feminine boy looked to his two other teammates, who shrugged or smiled in a what can you do fashion. Realizing that they weren't kidding when it came to Naruto's lack of desire for education, Haku sighed and made an additional note at the top of his page to ensure Naruto got a copy. Kurama decided to take time to appreciate the notes of the Grimm on the board and tuned the professor out. He did arch a brow when he thought he heard the word cabbages, but ultimately decided to resume his studying of the board's notes on the structure and weak points of a Deathstalker. Sasuke, like Haku, had his scroll out and was taking down notes. Unlike Haku, however, he was making notes of his observations on the teacher himself rather than the material that was being discussed. Narcissistic, egotistical, whimsical, boring, and to top it all off he's F.A. Sasuke's thought broke off when the professor cleared his throat and gave a pointed look to Team RWBY, who had unfortunately been stuck in the first row. Sasuke arched a brow and smirked as Professor Port stared the four girls down. Well, that sucks for them. In conclusion, a true huntsman must be honorable. Kurama looked out the window as a butterfly passed by before a bird snagged it. He smirked. The wonders of nature. True huntsmen must be dependable. Naruto snorted awake and took in his surroundings. Geez, this guy's still talking? Curse you reality, you once more keep me from which I love right as I'm about to truly experience bliss. True huntsmen must be strategic, well-educated and wise. Sasuke sighed as he let his scroll rest in front of him and glanced lazily at Professor Port. Shame you're none of those last three things. I can see you checking out the femme Naruto from here. Wait, did I just call her a? Oh crap baskets, he's rubbing off on me. Now, who among you believes themselves to be the embodiment of these traits? Professor Port asked as he looked around the room. Naruto arched a brow. What traits? Haku offered his scroll and Naruto looked them over. Nope, not me. He decided with a chuckle as he rested his head on his arms. Offer him some lean, though, Kurama said with a smirk. Hey, more lean means more ramen, and I'm always up for more ramen. Naruto returned with a cheeky grin. Sasuke shook his head. There's no one here who truly feels that way about themselves. Aside from you? Naruto asked. Sasuke shook his head. Even I'm not that full of myself. I do, sir. Weiss' hand shot up. I stand corrected, apparently there is someone here who truly feels that way about themselves, Sasuke said in surprise. Wow, someone more egotistical than Sasuke. Maybe we were wrong, Naruto said. Maybe Sneeze is the femme Sasuke instead of Belle. Kurama chuckled and leaned back in his seat. Man, I wish I had a camera ready. This is going to be good. Haku sighed and closed his scroll as a rattling cage slowly rose up from the ground. I believe there's no more notes to be taken today. Ah, man. There's a Grimm. I would have said something if I'd known there was a Grimm to fight, Naruto said with a pout as Professor Port gestured to the cage and told Weiss to get ready to face the monster. They waited for a few minutes before Weiss returned with her white-themed outfit on and rapier in hand. Go Weiss! Yang cheered. Blake waved a small flag with her team's name on it. Fight well. Yeah. Represent Team RWBY. Ruby cheered. Kurama chuckled. Oh, I wanted Jiret Schnee, but that was just adorable. Kurama's got a weak spot for cute girls, Naruto said to his partner, who nodded. I completely understand. Haku smiled lightly. Ruby is a cute girl, it's hard not to have a weak spot for her. Yeah, if she pouted at him, I'm fairly certain he'd bend to her every whim, Naruto said with a grin. I would not. Kurama snapped with a scowl as he glared at the blonde. Sasuke smirked. Well, Naruto, it seems that Kurama has decided to indulge in denial. Oh, so he's on that boat with you, huh? Now both Kurama and Sasuke were glaring at the grinning blonde. Alright, let the match begin. Port declared as he used his blunderbuss axe to remove the lock from the unknown Grimm's cage. The cage door fell down to reveal a shadowy warthog-like creature with the white bone mask connected to two large tusks and plates scattered across its small body. Weiss avoided the initial charge that the Grimm made and even dealt a counter out as she did. Not bad, Sasuke said thoughtfully. Had Borbotusks not been so heavily armored, I'd say that this would already be over. Indeed, Haku said as he observed the fight. Kurama laughed when Weiss' rapier was caught in the Grimm's tusks. She actually charged at it? Come on, even newbies at Con knew that Borbotusks are more armored near the head so that they can handle the impact their attacks make. Naruto groaned as Weiss was disarmed. Man, she's really not paying attention to this thing at all, is she? Nope. Haku agreed as he shook his head. This was actually kind of irritating to watch. He sighed when Weiss dodged the Borbotusk's charge and the Grimm bounced off of the desk without any damage done to the wood. She does remember that she can use her semblance, right? I would assume that since Professor Port can bring a Borbotusk into the classroom, that there would be some sort of safety measures in place for the other students. Or there's not and we're just expected to be able to dodge, Naruto said. He leaned back in his seat and rubbed his head. We are training to become huntsmen and huntresses after all. True. Haku conceded. Weiss, go for its belly. There's no armor underneath it. Stop telling me what to do. Weiss cut Ruby off. Naruto sighed and shook his head. Not cool. It seems that Team RWBY has more cracks than one would think, Haku said. Sasuke crossed his arms. There was bound to be a clash of all those different personalities. The only reason I get along so well with Idiot 1 and Idiot 2 is because we've known each other since childhood. And you fit in with us because, well, you're nice and polite, something to balance out our leader's brash and rude attitude. Screw you, Uchiha. Naruto flipped the dark-haired boy off without removing his eyes from the fight. He pursed his lips as the Borbotusk curled into a ball and spun rapidly before it charged at Weiss. I'd punch it, grab a tusk and bury the head into the ground, then use a bullet to finish it off. Restrain and reveal the underbelly, then do the same. Haku nodded. Kurama dug in his ear with his pinky. I'd probably find a way to knock it on its back and pierce it with Rikudo. I would electrocute it. Sasuke shrugged when the three other members of his team looked at him. What? When it works, it works. True. The other three conceded and watched as Weiss made a few figures in the air to reflect the Borbotusk and then jump off of to impale the Grimm with her rapier. Bravo! Professor Port said as a few members of the class applauded. It seems that we're in the presence of a true huntress. Kurama snorted and flicked the discovery in his ear off to the side. Yeah, she's a true huntress and I'm going to ask her to marry me. Careful, Kurama, that's how those sorts of rumors get started. Sasuke warned his partner with a smirk. He stood up as Professor Port dismissed the class. Oh, like you can start a rumor, Sasuke. Kurama scoffed. He buffed his nails on his chest and smirked. You're but a novice in the art of gossip, whereas I am a master. I did manage to get that rumor started after all. Sasuke and Naruto shuddered while Haku frowned in confusion. What rumor? He asked. Nothing, Sasuke and Naruto cut in quickly before Kurama could answer him. They glared at the grinning Faunus as he slipped by them and walked out of the classroom. If you say so. Haku frowned in confusion while both Naruto and Sasuke sighed in relief. They certainly dodged that bullet. Hey, Whisker Boy, where've you been all day? Yang said to her fellow blonde as Team NHKS walked up to herself and Blake while they sat with the boys of Team JNPR. The girls were in the midst of a spar, with Pyrrha offering advice to the energetic Nora after each attack she missed. Getting in trouble for having a broken clock and being late to every class today. How's it younging? Naruto asked with a grin while Yang laughed and Blake sighed. No more puns, please? Blake asked. Naruto grinned at her as he took the spot next to Yang. No promises, Belle. Sasuke shook his head and sat down next to Ren, while Kurama claimed the seat next to him. Good luck with that. We've been trying to get him to stop being stupid for years. The most we can manage, well, Kurama? Kurama nodded and reached his jacket to withdraw a rubber chicken. He then tossed the chicken on the ground in front of Naruto. Naruto. Don't do anything stupid. Naruto stared at the chicken and looked like he was about to start hyperventilating before he whipped out a paddleball from somewhere. Must resist stupidity impulse. Is that healthy? Blake asked as she arched a brow while Young snickered. It gets better. Kurama smirked as he threw down a marker and a can of green beans. Naruto did start to hyperventilate and sweat poured down the side of his face. The paddleball became a blur as Naruto's eyes flickered between the objects he desired to use so badly and the current source of entertainment he had on hand. Must resist stupidity impulse, must resist not resisting well. That's not normal. Haku pointed out with a look of concern on his face. Kurama chuckled. No, but it is funny. With so many people present, it's harder, but if he was by himself, he'd last longer. So, he gets off on having an audience? Yang asked with a lewd grin as she stared at the sweating and trembling whiskered blonde. What's wrong, Naruto? Performance problems? Woman, do not tease me right now. Naruto grit out as bullets of sweat shot from his head while the paddleball looked like it was about to burst into flame. Never mind, there it goes. Yang grinned and, despite the frantic waving coming from Kurama and Sasuke, leaned in to whisper in his ear. I can help you with those problems. The paddleball snapped off the string and shot into the sky. Naruto tossed the ball-less paddleball away and grabbed his head with an anguished cry. I can't take it anymore. He vanished in a burst of speed that left a large cloud of smoke in his image. Yang waved her hand through it and the smoke scattered in the air. The items at his feet were gone, as if they were never there. Oh, what have we done? Kurama mumbled. His skin seemed to pale and his glasses slid down slightly to nearly reveal the top of his eyes. We armed him. Sasuke looked worried. You don't think he'd actually prank her first, do you? Prank who? John asked nervously. Sasuke's fetish appeal. Screw you, Otsutsuki. Sasuke grunted with a punch to the Faunus arm. Kurama snickered while John looked worried. No, but seriously, who did he want to prank? He asked again. Who want to prank? The group looked back to find Naruto back in his seat next to Yang, looking like he hadn't just run off like a madman frothing at the mouth. He even had a new paddleball in his hand and seemed to casually play with it while he tilted his head to admire Pyrrha's derriere when she bent over to help Nora back on her feet. Naruto, where did you go? Haku asked his teammate. He got no response. Naruto. Sorry, I was admiring the scenery. Naruto grinned at his partner. Sup, Haku? Where did you go just now? Haku asked again. Me? I didn't go anywhere. I was just sitting here admiring the scenery and playing with my paddleball. He looked over at Yang and adjusted the way he held the childish toy so that it made a lewd hand gesture. You know, to prepare myself for those long lonely nights. Yang snickered despite herself. Blake shoved her slightly and Yang gave her a sheepish grin. What? It's funny. It's disgusting. Blake drawled. This coming from the girl with a copy of Ninjas of Love, Naruto said dryly. He ignored the blush that flared up on Blake's face and looked at Sasuke. Seems Kurama and I were right, Sasuke. She is a female version of you. Yang looked at her partner with a grin. So, Ninjas of Love, huh? Shut up. Blake hissed. She glared at Naruto. How do you know that? Naruto glanced over at her with an arched brow. Know what? That I have a copy of Ninjas of Love. You do? Wow, that's kinky. Hey, Sasuke, I have good news for you. You got a book buddy. You can start a book club, a kinky book club. Yang burst into laughter along with Kurama while Sasuke and Blake flushed bright red. Ren and Haku rubbed their faces with their hands while Juan looked confused. What's Ninjas of Love? He asked. Naruto looked at his fellow blonde with shock and his paddleball stopped. Tell me you're joking. John shook his head. Dear you poor boy. Naruto gave his new friend a smile. Alright, where to begin? Well, it all starts with our hero named Namato from the village of Pusei. Namato is on an endless journey to find his one true love. John smiled. Ah, that sounds nice. I should get a few copies for my sisters. No. Sasuke and Blake cried out quickly while Yang fell backwards into the bleachers as she laughed. Ah, yes, I guess I should be honest if you have sisters. Don't want any visits home to end in a broken puke boy, now do we? Naruto asked. He leaned forward and looked at Juan. You see, Namato is a master of the FA pin fist style and has yet to be defeated on the battlefield against any male or female opponent. Yang, who had never read the series, stopped laughing and sat up. I'm sorry, what? Naruto looked at her with an arched brow. What? Namato experimented from time to time. Yang's eyes widened and she let a small grin cross her face. Go on. What are you all talking about? Pyrrha asked as she walked over to join the group with Nora not far behind her. Naruto looked up at her, taking a brief moment to admire her figure from this angle, before he grinned. Oh, Sasuke and Blake just suggested a book for John to read. You son of a bi-dash. Kurama, who looked far too giddy as he listened to this whole conversation, covered Sasuke's mouth before he could finish that sentence. I'll dash. Blake, likewise, was stopped and her mouth was covered by Yang, who looked at Naruto expectantly. Don't leave me hanging, Naruto, how many guys did Namato take on? She asked. Yang, there's only one thing I let hang purposefully, and that's because of genetics. Naruto quipped with a grin. Yang grinned back at him. Oh, is that a fact? What's the book you were discussing? Pyrrha asked, curious and trying to not think about what the two blondes had meant while Nora pestered Ren about his pink cheeks that matched his hair. Oh, something about duality. I dunno, I wasn't really paying attention. Naruto admitted as he went back to playing with his paddleball. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out his scroll, which he used to check the time. Any second now. Kurama stopped smiling and released his partner's mouth. What did you do? I certainly didn't set up an elaborate prank that would take too long to explain with the materials you left so tantalizingly close to me, Naruto said with an innocent blink of his eyes. We are so expelled. Sasuke groaned. That's only if I'm caught. Naruto grinned as his team all paled. And as far as all of you know, I was here the whole time. Which I was. Yang snickered and let her arm wrap around Naruto's shoulders. Whisker boy, I'm starting to think that you and I are going to get along way better than I originally thought. Haku and Blake shivered. Being the two blondes partners, that meant they were partially responsible for their actions and were required to keep an eye on them. John opened his mouth to say something when a loud scream came from the other side of Beacon. All eyes went to Naruto, who once more resumed playing with his paddleball. Nora, whatever you do, do not ever make Naruto angry. Ren firmly told his partner and longtime friend. Nora tilted her head. I don't know why I would, Ren. I don't want to make anyone angry. I want us all have pancakes. I prefer waffles. Nora glared at Sasuke, who merely stared back with a brow arched, silently challenging her to do something about it. Nora. But run. Ren stared at her. Nora pouted and glared at Sasuke. I will break you. Better people have tried. Naruto and Kurama took that as their cue to start whistling innocently. Haku sighed and looked up at the orange-red sky. It's getting late and we still have classes tomorrow. I suggest we turn in for the night. Good call, partner. Naruto grinned and hopped to his feet, still playing with his paddleball. Haku, Kurama and Sasuke weren't far behind him as he started to walk away. See you guys tomorrow, tell Ruby and Sneeze we hope they have nice dreams. Okay, how can you two be so comfortable with this? Sasuke asked under his breath as Naruto and Kurama started to change into some nightclothes while Haku ducked into the bathroom for a shower. Naruto looked at his raven-haired friend as he pulled up a pair of running shorts and tossed his clothes in a bin at the other side of the room. Comfortable with what? She's showering and you two are just getting all casually undressed. Sasuke replied with a frown. Naruto blinked. She? Haku, you idiot. Naruto looked at Kurama, who gave him a smirk. Naruto seemed to get the idea as he grinned back and looked at Sasuke. She hasn't complained so far. Besides, Ajban probably wouldn't have assigned her to stay with us if she wasn't alright with it, Kurama said with a smirk. I spoke with her earlier while you were in the lunch line. She went to a co-ed school and shared showers with guys, so sharing a room with guys wasn't that big of a deal for her. Naruto turned away and bit onto his knuckles to conceal his laughter while Sasuke snapped his head over to Kurama so fast, the Faunus was slightly worried his partner had broken something. Really? Kurama smirked. Hook, line and sinker. Damn, I'm good. Really? Sasuke's surprised stare turned into a soft smirk that usually made girls back home fawn over his appearance, or as Naruto would put it, cream their panties. He grabbed his towel off the rack outside the bathroom and stripped himself down to his birthday suit. The two other males weren't all that impressed, they had seen their friend naked before in the locker room. If you'll excuse me, I think I'm going to go see if I can make this team really worthwhile, Sasuke said as he slipped into the bathroom. Kurama waited until the door shut with a soft click before he hopped up from his bed and began to dig around in his dresser. Camera, where's my camera? This is going to be amazing. Naruto, once he'd managed to calm down, looked over at the excited Faunus and scratched his head. I dunno, Kurama. Maybe this was a little much, Haku probably won't enjoy Sasuke's attempt to seduce him. I'll make it up to him later, Kurama said as he brushed Naruto's worries aside. Both teens looked at the bathroom door as a loud shriek came from the bathroom and was followed by a thud. They heard the shower cut off and a concerned soft voice mutter something they couldn't make out. The two waited silently until Haku burst out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist and a worried look on his face. Guys! Sasuke's fallen and hit his head on the toilet, what do we do? Get out of my way, I need to get pictures of this. Kurama rushed past the bewildered Haku while Naruto fell off of his bed and roared with laughter. Poor Haku could only wonder why they had reacted in such a manner while flashes and clicks of a camera came from the bathroom. In the end, Haku sighed and went to his dresser to dress for the night. His teammates were weird, but he wouldn't trade them for the world. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction. Looking forward to having you on board again.